Good evening. All right, so I lost my keys. So I love y'all. All right, so we have 5 present with me. Jill Dyson did text me, a board colleague, Jill Dyson did text me and say they had a crash on I-10, so she's also on the way and apologizes for being delayed. And I call the meeting to order. Can we get an invocation by Mr. Brother Lannis is not present. Board Member Baloo, an invocation. Oh, you want to pass to, okay, he passes. Board Member Ware Jackson, would you like to give an invocation for us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by board colleague Goldie? No? Huh? Oh, that's his school. Yes, I'm sorry. McKinley High School Board, and he will give you a nice little medal and everything. Okay.
Father, we thank you, Lord, for your presence, Lord. We thank you for your guidance this evening, Lord God. We ask for your gracious favor over the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, all of our administrators, all of our children coming in next month, Father God. We just pray blessings and protection over everyone in the district, Lord God. And Father, we pray, Lord God, that you would lead us tonight in the right direction in every vote that we make, Lord God. And we just praise you and give you honor in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Good evening. I'll be here introducing our cadet who will be providing the Pledge of Allegiance. Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Layla Collins. She's a senior at McKinley Senior High School and serves as the battalion commanding officer. She is the daughter of Geneva Banks, an educator and proud mother. Layla is the 2021 East Baton Rouge Parish Cadet of the Year. Also, while at McKinley, she has held multiple leaderships in junior ROTC, from class leader, squad leader, battalion staff officer, and now as our battalion commander. Serving as the JRTC highest ranking cadet, Layla is also the president of the Beta Club and second vice president of Top Teens of America. Dedicated to her duties and self-improvement while attending McKinley, Cadet Collins continues to seek personal and academic improvement. She has a grade point average of 4.32, has attained mastery levels in English, math, science, LEAP tests, and has achieved an ACT score of 27 as of last year. This summer, Layla is interning at the Bear Process Engineering firm. Layla is a member of the State Championship Panther Battalion drill team, captain of the Color Guard, member of the JRTC Leadership and Academic Bowl, the JRTC Archery team, and co-captain of the Panther Raider team. She is a model cadet who has successfully taken on the challenge of living up to the JRTC Cadet Creed and the Panther Pledge. Following graduation, Cadet Collins plans to attend Southern University to study chemical engineering. Cadet Collins qualities include her high character, integrity, emotional governance, responsibility, ambition, and maturity. It's my sincere pleasure to introduce Cadet Layla Collins.
Please put your hand over your heart. Pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
And wait for your board member to reach you a medal and give you great thanks.
Ms. Collins, as a former member of a state championship drill team and also a chemical engineer, I'd like, and it looks like you don't have enough medals on you. So I wanted to make sure to give you this in appreciation from the school board and the superintendent. And don't fall in the river because you'll never come to the surface with all those medals. Congratulations. Very good work. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
District 9, President Tatman. District 4, Vice President Collins.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Present.
District 3, Mr. Howard. District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson.
Present.
District 6, Ms. Dyson. District 7, Mr. Gode.
Here.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Present.
All right, moving forward, approval of the school board minutes of the June 16th, 2022 regular board meeting as published in the official journal. Moved by board member Bernard. Can I get a second? I saw Brother Lannis. Okay. All right, so seconded by board colleague Lannis. Seeing no board comment, any public comment on the minutes? Seeing no public comment on the minutes, back to the board, seeing none from the board. Madam Secretary, please call the vote. Oh, yes. Madam Secretary.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Lannis.
Yay.
District 4, Vice President Collins.
Yay.
District 5, Ms. Ware Jackson. District 6, Ms. Dyson.
Yes.
District 7, Mr. Gode.
Yes.
District 8, Ms. Bernard.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving forward with information only, item C1, monthly financial report. All right. Item C2, personnel changes. Item C3, public records requests, monthly report. Details are in backup material. Moving forward with item D1, receive as information update from the superintendent.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. So just wanted to share a few things as we go get close to the school year. We're excited that the early childhood education is being recognized as a priority in our state. Recently, Governor Edwards signed Act 414 into law. This act states that kindergarten is now mandatory in the state of Louisiana. Our district is prepared and ready to welcome these new learners. Parents need to contact their respective schools of interest to enroll their children in our schools. The second thing we had is this week we have been hosting our summer leadership, where we've had all of our principals, APs, and coaches, and various leaders plan throughout the week as they start to prepare for the school year, which will begin for students on August 8th. This morning, school leaders had Dr. Michael Hinojosa, who is the former superintendent of Dallas Independent School District. He just retired. Talked to him this morning, and was very excited about continuing to learn about the progress we are making here in our city. And so our goal is to continue with our training sessions, which finish up as school leaders prepare for the school year, and for teachers for the Teacher Development Week, which is coming up in another 2 weeks. Transportation. We're continuing to work to have students schedule on buses to begin the new school year. There's been about 34,000 routes that's already been assigned. Parents should expect confirmation with their child's routing information, or they should expect communication that they have not been routed their child with instructions on how to obtain routing information within the next 2 business days. As many of you know, we are working hard to make sure that all children in our parish are routed on buses. We have a few events coming up as we get closer to the school year. We will participate in the Stuff the Bus campaign on Wednesday, July 27th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Walmart on College Drive. This is our yearly annual Stuff the Bus Drive, where we provide supplies to students at a drive and hosted by WBRZ in partnership with VIPS to support EBR students and teachers through community donations. We encourage everyone to come out and donate school supplies to support our district. We will also be hosting what we call We Care Block Party in downtown Baton Rouge as a welcome back social for our educators on Friday, August 5th at 6 p.m. This event is being hosted in partnership with iCare to show our gratitude for our educators. It will be a fun night filled with food, entertainment, resources, and a free bike ride with Go Rides. We'll be riding throughout the city and also be encouraging families across the city, calling it Rolling with the Soup, having a great time as we get ready for our school district school start. Our district-wide back to school bash. If you haven't seen the billboards or Facebook or anything like that, will be this Saturday, the Saturday of August 6th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Raising Cane's River Center. We're excited to have representatives from each of the schools presented, along with all the essential departments such as child nutrition, technology, student support services, ESS, and more. We'll be giving away free school supplies, free haircuts, and other community resources as all of our partners will come together to prepare for students to begin school on August 8th. The day will be filled with much entertainment, free food. We invite the entire community across the parish to come to the River Cane Center to do that. And Madam Vice President, that is my report.
Thank you so much. And moving forward then with comment from board member Evelyn Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Dr. Narcisse, you mentioned the transportation, and it brought to mind some conversation or communication I've been following along transportation routes that were for a specific group of zip codes that were going to, I believe it was Sherwood Middle. There's a group of families that live in a certain area that are in the 70808 zip code, and they were looking for transportation from one of the buses or from one of the drop-off points at a library. You're familiar with that? There was conversation, and I just wondered if you knew whether they were widening the area of reach within those zip codes so that they could gather those students or not.
Board Member Jackson, I'm not aware of that, but we can follow up on that. I can have the team follow up. I'll talk with Monique Scott Spalding, our team, to be able to follow up on that.
Okay, because I know they've been looking for some help for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And so I was wondering if we were able to make a little progress for them. So I'll be looking forward to hearing about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving forward with item E1. Jill, you snuck up on me. Recognizing board member Jill Dyson.
Yes, on the transportation piece. So, I've been asking this for every meeting we've had just recently. I just want to make sure that with our reduction in numbers of bus drivers, that with that budget cut, we are still going to adequately provide efficient transportation. And I wanted to see if we could get a number on, do we have all of our bus driver positions filled? Or do we have unfilled positions there starting the school year? Does anyone know?
So are you asking Board Member Dyson about what our vacancy numbers for bus drivers? Is that what you're asking?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. If we can get Monique Scott Spalding
Oh,
to
hi.
come up. And also for vacancies, I see Bianca or Ms. Hall, if we have the number exactly as well.
Hello, good
Hi.
evening. So we just went through the process of seniority changeover the last couple of days. And literally, I was speaking to Mr. Bell as I was walking in. As I understand it, there's about 15 routes that are uncovered at this time. We were actually expecting a little bit more. And so we hope that we'll be able to fill those the beginning of next week. There are some potential employees that have gone through the CDL class that are potentially ready to go through the process to come on board. I don't have that number. I want to say it's 12, but I'm not sure of that number. We were waiting to see the pass rate to be able to determine that group. But we're working actively to be able to fill those positions.
Well, it's of course very vitally important, and so I think maybe it may be getting time to start thinking out of the box. And people that already have their license, how do we outreach to those individuals? And so if we can put a real concentration on that.
We will definitely do that. I know that he's reached out to some of the other partners in the community that support transportation, and he was
Yes.
actually on, I think it was WVLA Channel 33 Tuesday morning,
Good.
asking for bus drivers as well, asking for support.
Very good. Can you keep us posted on that?
Happy to
And
do
do we
so.
have adequate, or have we allotted for some trail buses and trail bus drivers?
We have. So, obviously with transportation, the standard drivers, you have the routes, and then there are trail buses and standby buses in addition to that. And so I'm sure there will be needs, but at this point, the areas are covered and there's a plan for it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I actually need to ask a question. Superintendent, you mentioned how many students have already opted in. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Spalding, could you give the exact number on how many students have opted in on transportation?
So opt-in and the students that we have routed is different, right? We had almost 17,000 kids opt in for transportation, but we've routed almost 35,000 kids.
Okay, so then if Lil Susie mama missed the notice or got caught up with a lot of other tasks and duties, then we realized that she caught the bus last year and she's getting routed this year.
Correct. And our
Okay.
effort to connect with the remaining students, the remaining 41,000 students in the district, there will be cards mailed out next week that the routes will be mailed out, right? And if a family does not have a route, they will also receive a card stating that they are not currently routed, and they will have a process to be able to contact the schools to be able to submit the information so that the transportation department can follow through and route the students. And packets are going to the schools next week as well. There is under Bulletin 119 a process for the schools to follow with obtaining signed letters for the families to ensure that the families understand the parameters for riding the bus, discipline issues, obligations and responsibilities of the families as well. And the schools will support us in securing those letters.
Okay. Board Member Dyerson.
I'm sorry, I wanted to circle back. Have we devised a plan to adequately staff phone lines, transportation phone lines for the beginning of school, move some employees around to get more manpower and live humans answering the phone and resolving issues and concerns and talking with parents?
So there is a phone bank, as they have done in the past, something new this year, and it hasn't been publicized yet. We will make sure that families understand this, but there will be a webinar that's available. It'll be open. Parents can join via the link, and if they're having issues, they'll be able to, put it in the chat or what have you. But schools have submitted their transportation coordinators that are also going to support the transportation department to be able to answer questions. So it's a collaborative effort to be able to connect.
Because when little Johnny doesn't arrive home on time and parents are very concerned, they need a human being that can answer the phone and discuss what's happening and find out where that bus is. How are we with our routing GPS systems and all of that, so that, do we still have that ability for parents to go on and see exactly where their bus is?
So the system that's in place is the current system. The RFP is not going to end until the end of this month. So, I talked about that. I spoke about that before, that will be later in coming. But we will have the schools supporting the transportation department. They will have communication to be able to give to the parents, and the transportation department will have the phone bank as they've done in the past. The webinar is just an additional layer to be able to support families.
So you're saying that the GPS, that the parent could go online and see where the bus is going to be ending in July?
No. I said the
Okay.
RFP.
Is going out for the new, but
Right.
for the new.
And the responses are due by the end of July.
But we're still going to have on our
current
website
systems
a
are in
link.
place.
Okay,
Current
Okay.
systems are in place.
perfect. That's all I needed to know. Thank you
No
very
worries,
much.
No worries. Thanks.
Okay, moving forward with item D1 again. No, item E1. Reports from board appointees to committees and or agencies. Anybody want to report from VIPs or anything like that? Okay. Moving forward, unfinished business, professional services contract, Arizona State University Prep Digital, ASU. Consideration of a request for the approval of a professional services contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Arizona State University Prep Digital, Strategic Alignment, Student Achievement Funding Source, General Fund. Can I get a motion? Board Member Baloo. A second, Board Member Godey. Oh. Board Member Godey.
Yes. What I would like the general counsel to just briefly review the changes in the contract from what was at the committee of the whole. I understand there's been some revisions on that. And if you could just walk through the revisions from what we saw at the committee of the whole, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Actually, the revisions are minor but major. There's just one major change. In the original contract, the maximum number, the district was obligated to pay for 700 students in virtual instruction enrolled. We negotiated that number down to 450. The district still has the option to enroll beyond that number, but we're not obligated to pay those costs unless students actually show up. So we've lowered the ceiling for obligated cost. The district also has the option with the 450 that if we don't reach that number, we can repurpose that money for professional development and other options. So that's also written into the contract.
And thank you very much. And I also understand that repurposing can also go to students who are in the alternative schools, that
That's
they can
correct.
receive virtual
Instruction, yes.
instruction and things in the alternative school. And also that contract, from what I read, is 30 days that we can opt out of that contract at any time with 30 days notice. So it's a 3-year contract, but down the road, if we're seeing we're not getting our value out of it, the ability for us to exit that contract is in there.
That's correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we addressed all of those points before we got into the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Did we get information about and let me preface this by saying, I actually met a parent at a community schools conference whose child is enrolled in our virtual school in 11th grade and doing exceptionally well. Okay. And so that was good to hear. But I did want to ask one, what did we get in terms of information for the success rate? So we had X number of kids enrolled last year, working through ASU, and then what was the passage rate? What was the failure rate of those students that participated last year? Because asynchronous learning works amazingly well for some kids, like hers, but not others. And so can I get that?
Yeah, we can provide you with that. Mr. Brickhouse, I see you here. Do you be able to provide that information to the board?
And as he's coming up, I, just want to be positive as I ask my questions. I was pleasantly pleased. I was pleased with her sharing of his experience. Like I said, and he's a young black. It's a black family. I know that's a great concern as we talk about equity and et cetera. But then I want to make sure as a group, how well did those children fare?
All right. As it stands right now, we had a total of 45 students who graduated from the virtual academy from last year. We had total number of, we don't have it broken down specifically by the number of students who did not fail or did not do well. The total number of enrollment was 630 students from last year. Total number of seniors were 81. We did provide additional support to those students who were not doing well. And we had, but we did have a significant number of students that did not do as well. And so some of the students, as we looked into coming to this school year, because, as you said, virtual learning is not for everyone. So some students opted to go back to their neighborhood schools. So currently we are roughly around about 200 students that are actually enrolled in this virtual school at this particular point in time, because the rest of the students have opted to go back to their neighborhood schools.
So we started with 81 seniors and 45 of them graduated.
Yes, ma'am. And some of them did go to summer learning. I don't have that percentage as of this particular date.
And we have currently 200 something people
Roughly
enrolled.
around 200.
So we already got to pay these people we already got to pay these people for twice as many children. Okay. That's all I got for now. Board member go, is that, oh, okay, all right. So seeing no other board comment, thank you, sir, very much. To the public.
I didn't have a chance. Oh, excuse me. My name is James Finney. I was working on other things today and didn't have a time to look at whatever revisions were done to the contract. But I would hope we make absolutely certain that every teacher is certified and eligible for Louisiana certification. Otherwise, I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is you're breaking either Bessie policy or the law or both. And I would be stunned if every teacher that ASU has put in front of students is eligible for Louisiana certification. So I would urge you to not approve this contract and find actual qualified teachers to run the virtual school. I know that a year ago, you would have easily been able to fill those slots with teachers that would have been more comfortable teaching from home, and the administration did not allow them that opportunity. Outsourcing this work to folks from other states is a very bad idea, and you can end that tonight. Thank you.
Storm Matthews, I am pleased to see that there was negotiation. There was changes. It's much improved. Amazingly enough, my distrust is not with EBR on the teacher certification piece, but it's with who Arizona puts in because of their new law. And because of ASU's statute in what type of school they qualify as within Arizona, and how there might be a loophole within Louisiana's statutes with charters. So because the contract does state that the teachers have to fit our legal limits of what the teachers have to be. I would still love to see just a tagline in there, must have a degree and be certified and teach our students. I do agree with Dawn is still paying for 200 seats that we don't have kids in. It's still a lot. It's way better than the 700 though. So it is much improved. Maybe we could get it down a little bit more. Don't know, but it is much improved. And I thank whoever worked on that. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I want to say that I'm in support of Arizona State coming. I'm supportive of them being over the program. And also, I want to thank everybody on this board. I'm talking about from Daryl Lannis, Tamir Howard, Mike Goday, Evelyn Ware, Jill Dyson, even David Tappan that's not here, Miss Collins, and Cam Bernard, and Mark Ballou. Because believe me, we have come a long ways, and y'all know we have. I mean, and I want to thank Dr. Narcisse also. It's amazing how we just keep coming here saying the same things, like stuff is so wrong. And everybody come here to have something negative to say, give me at least one thing to say good about what the board has done just this year. Because I think the years past, this has been a good 4 years. This has really been a good 4 years. Y'all got to realize, look at all the stuff that we have gotten done from 4 years ago to now, okay? Just think about it. I think this is the best board that we've had. I've been going through this for the past 10 years. And I just walked in here and I saw Mr. Webb. He's been part of that. He's been right part of this too. He can contest what I'm saying. This is not brand new, but it just kills me. Even I'm giving you a prime example. I've seen parents that came and spoke against Arizona State. I mean, not parents, teachers that have come up here and spoke against Arizona State. And I'm looking like, this is the same teacher that missed 2-3 days out of a week. Then here come another teacher, coming to school late every day. Coming to school at 7:35, 7:40. And guess what? School started at 6:45. Okay? So I'm painting the real picture. I'm not painting a picture where we trying to just make this so beautiful, like only the board is the bad people here. This is the best thing that could ever happen to Baton Rouge. This is called innovation. This is being innovative. This is how we make progress. We just cannot keep bashing the board. We cannot, it does not work that way. Thank you.
Dr. Tony Jones, United Faith Leaders. Madam VP, Board Superintendent. I say the same thing just about when I come up here. There's a group, we're all familiar with, the boy who cried wolf. We have a group of individuals that's always crying wolf. You all picked the best school for the job. Wasn't a shade tree mechanic. You need a surgeon, you got a surgeon. You didn't get a general practitioner. It does not matter. I ask you to stop listening to the children on the board and the children back here that cry wolf. It's an easy fix. Let the people help our kids. They qualify better than anyone else. The children that cry wolf have nothing better to do. You do. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other public comment, and Superintendent, you said you were passing on the, okay. All right. Okay, board colleague Ware Jackson.
I thought the superintendent would probably address what I was going to ask. Didn't we talk about this before around the qualifications for those teachers? Would you mind, please, revisiting that? Because that seems to be an issue here.
I believe we did clear it up, but I will follow up again. Mr. Shamlin, just want to make sure, could you please share, I think you've shared this before, but just any teacher that teaches Arizona State in terms of any student from the state of Louisiana, they must have qualifications to teach a child from state of Louisiana. Is that correct?
Sorry, Dr. Narcisse. That's correct, Ms. Webb Jackson. And I wasn't the one that addressed it, but I'll just speak to it in the contract. We do reference the requirement that teachers from ASU meet the certification requirements of Louisiana. And I believe our HR department is working with ASU to make that happen. I can't speak to the specifics, but I do believe that's happening with the HR department.
Okay, I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you, Dr. Narcisse.
I do we have any? How was their proximity contract? I know they wasn't necessarily a good vendor. And matter of fact, that parent that I spoke to said she did notice a positive difference between proximity and ASU. So I'm not trying to say somebody would be better, etc. But did proximity say we had to give them a certain number of kids?
It's been a while, Ms. Collins.
Okay,
I'd
all
have to pull that contract. I don't recall that type of provision in the last proximity contract that I managed.
I don't
but
recall
can't
that
speak to
coming up as we discussed proximity, whether it was the virtual school or them helping with teacher vacancies in individual classrooms, but I wanted to try to double check my awareness. You know who else puts a minimum number in order for them to provide services? Private prisons. Private prisons. It has to do with, I disagree with the whole concept of giving them a guaranteed number of children. Where they gonna come from? We gonna recruit for them and send them some kids? Okay. I disagree. And I'm disagreeing on behalf of the Black children who didn't graduate out of the 81 seniors that was in their class. I just disagree. And it's not about, if it's really about Black kids, then let's do something about Black kids. And no, we can't say there's no other better provider. Was the research done to make sure there was nobody else better? And to give these people twice as much money than the children that they're gonna serve, let me come up with a contract and say I need a guaranteed number of students, and then don't bother with making sure. Board colleague, go there. Oh no, where you had a question? No, you went. Okay, board colleague, go there.
Yes, I just want to move back toward the positive side of this discussion, and any concept or mention of prison versus what we're doing with ASU, I find very offensive. We are not in the pipeline to prison. We're trying to stop that and do everything we can with that, and to have that kind of implication out there in the public, I think is very, very misleading. Also, the kind of contract to have a minimum number that you pay for, recognize that we in the nation are in the middle of a teacher shortage. There is a lot of resources that need to be there. And if you remember last year, we went from several hundred students to over 1,000 students in the period of about a month, which is one of the reasons why they fell. Proximity could not perform. So some of this is reserving capacity. And so I don't know what COVID's going to do. I don't know how any of this is going to be. And we're not just giving the money away. We have recourses to take that money and use it in other areas, particularly around some of the Black children and other children who are in alternative schools. So I don't view that as being wasted money. And I'm assuming that given the fiduciary responsibility of our superintendent and staff, that entire money will be well used as it goes through. And if we see that the need for schools, the seats are coming down, we have the ability to go back next year and reduce that number. So this is an ongoing thing. I don't know what COVID's going to do. I think this is a good compromise. It's way down from 750 down to 450. So that's a much better number. But, is it exactly what I want? No, it's not exactly what I want, but I think it's a good contract, and I have nothing else. If we don't want this, What are we going to do with those kids who want to be in virtual schools? What are we going to do with the children who are in alternative schools that need assistance, that virtual schools will be doing? And I don't know, for instance, how many of those kids who didn't graduate, because that's a 55% graduation rate, and I think we typically run about a 78 or to 80% graduation rate. I don't know exactly what the graduation rate we hit last year, but I also don't know the makeup of these students. I don't know at all about what part of those students were alternative students or this, that, and the other. So I can't make a judgment just based upon that number without context. And so that's all I have to say, and I am for this contract. A, I think they do a good job, and B, I don't have a better alternative, and those kids deserve to have some education and some schooling. So thank you.
Make sure there's no, okay, superintendent.
I just wanted to clarify for the board, every context matters. I know we're asking a lot of questions. When Arizona State came aboard, remember that we did not have a virtual program and we did not do well internally with that. So there was a lot of different things as they came over to try to catch kids up. We had children who did not attend school. So there's so much more to that. I know that Chief Brickhouse provides you who graduated. There's sets of kids who also go into the summer and the fall to graduate, but there's a whole lot of different components and more context and data that we can provide to that on the why. But I stand by saying Arizona State has done an exceptional job with students, all colors. They have a large network across the nation around doing that. I would just caution the board for us to rush to judgment on just this, because there's been a whole process of implementation and those things that we've had to catch up Arizona State and also their programming and those things. And so, but when you look at many of the parents, as you said, Vice President Collins, you talked to a parent, many parents have had a great experience with them. This year will actually be their full year of actually having the program. So I would just say for us not to rush to judgment based on what we have seen so far. If you talk to most of the families there, or look at which we're going to take some more surveys and those things, their experiences have been positive. But also recall that our children have come out of a pandemic, and so we've had children go into the school, out of the schools. There's a lot of different moving parts that have impacted where children are. So we're hopeful that with a full year this year, with whatever child that we have, that our parents and children that choose the program, we can provide a much more valid set of data sets. But I just want to let the board know, we were coming out of COVID in that space. Not that it's an excuse, but from the overall experience set there, Arizona State has been making tremendous progress with our students.
Thank you. And then to clarify, my sentiment is not a rush to judgment. It's the same sentiment I had last time, and in my opinion, apparently for good reason. I'm not even saying that I'm voting no because I don't want them all together. But when you know that it does asynchronous learning, regardless who does it, okay, only works for a small segment of students, then to turn around and know that all you have is 200 and something kids, which hopefully those students it works very well for, okay? And then you turn around and say that you're going to guarantee they get twice as much money with no plan of, yeah, these are options available, but seeing as we know that twice as much, they're getting twice as much money, we would seem like we would actually have a plan in place of what to do with the 200 students plus worth of money that will not get used and will not get used because what's our trigger? What's the moment in which we say we know that right now all they have is half as much as we've promised them, but we have these options available? What plan is there in place to make sure that that money is used? Is none. And so for that reason, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm glad it's working for the students that it's working for. Hopefully this year it's going to work for all 200 of them. Okay. But I'm not giving these people twice as much money. Like we just have money to waste. Board Member Dyson, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, is there a way that we're going to continue and make this bridge to our homebound students? And can that be part of our plan?
Yeah, so the what we plan on doing with the numbers was to make this allow the program to be optional to a lot of students across the city that this may not, the traditional approach may not work for them to go in the classroom. So yes, we're trying to make all those connections.
And then I'm also thinking about, I know that the homebound don't necessarily, they just can't be physically in the building. But they may not be virtual learners either. And I've had some complaints about, getting assignments and having enough face time instead of just like they'll get an assignment, go on Google and do this assignment. And it was more like contact the teacher if you have any questions, but it wasn't actual teaching. It was being self-taught, really. The child was just on the computer. So I'm hoping that with these open seats that we can really support, when children and students have special needs or just learn differently or just they don't need to be just teaching themselves. And so I'm hoping for a lot of face time on the computer with an instructor. So I don't know if you can speak to that, but I want that student to get, because with technology, there's so much ability. I believe I'd like to see, that we specifically request that they have so many hours of real-time instruction.
Board Member Dice, we can share with you the Arizona State model again. I remember they did a presentation for us that showed their combination, so I can share that. We can share that with you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Sister Corley, can you come get your baby? He disrupting the meet. Come on, you go ahead. We have a break in between agenda items. Thank you. All right, moving forward now with item G, consent agenda. Oh, and look, updated because I was trying to get her to get a baby, and I did vote nay. Are you able to update it? Oh. She showed it. I was okay. Thank you. All right, so then moving forward with the consent agenda. Huh? Oh, to correct mine, I'm present, but I was late clicking my nay because I was, so it's, we need to redo, okay. Okay, all right, so let's wait. Okay, thank you.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you. And now moving forward with the consent agenda, Board Member Bernard shall read it for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda. The following items are to be approved as part of the consent agenda and are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as an item on the regular agenda for a separate vote preceding the last item on the regular agenda. 2. School grade relocation, Buchanan Elementary School. Consideration of a request for the approval to move Buchanan Elementary School grades 4 and 5 to University Terrace Elementary, housed at Eva Lagarde Learning Center for the 2022-2023 school year. 3. School grade relocation, University Terrace Elementary. Consideration of a request for the approval to move University Terrace Elementary School grades 2 and 3 to the Buchanan Elementary School site for the 2022-2023 school year. 3. School relocation, Brownfields Elementary. Consideration of a request to relocate and house Brownfields Elementary School at the White Hills Elementary School site for the 2022-2023 school year. 5. 2022-2023 Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook and Discipline Policy. Consideration of a request for approval of the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook and Discipline Policy for the 2022-2023 school year for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System with noted changes. 6. Professional Services Contract, LSU and Agricultural and Mechanical College. Consideration of a request for the approval of a professional services contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and LSU and Agricultural and Mechanical College in the amount of $123,891 to provide staff and program support at the Eva Lagarde Learning Center. Strategic alignment, student achievement, funding source, general fund, magnet. 7. Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire. Consideration of a request for the approval of the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire as required for the 2020-2021 financial audit of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. 8. Charter Contract Renewal, Helix Mentorship. Consideration of a request for approval to renew the charter school agreement with Helix Mentorship and provide for related matters. 9. Litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation of Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, EBR PSS, in the matter of Sophia Hunt versus Christy L. Woods, East Baton Rouge Parish School System and Berkeley Insurance Company, docket number 700231, Section 25, 19th Judicial Court, Parish of East Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, to provide for related matters. 10. Policy BCB. Consideration of a request for the approval of Policy BCB, School Board Meeting Rules and Procurement. And I so move.
And Board Member Howard seconds. Is there any item that any colleague needs to pull from the consent?
If everyone would agree, I would like to add just 2 words inserted into the policy that Mr. Howard so graciously developed with Mr. Shamlin. I'm very appreciative of you. There is a section that reads, the superintendent and/or his designee.
Or colleague.
I think this would have to be a separate item. I would have to pull it to do so.
Okay,
But I
so
don't
you
want
want
to pull it if people don't look amenable to it.
Let me jump in for a second, Board, if you don't mind. Because this particular item requires 6 votes for approval, we need to pull it anyway,
Oh, okay.
consider it separately.
All right.
Okay.
So I so move, and then somebody else can pull that item.
Okay. And then let me pull 8 on the Helix. A constituent had a question about a few things. And so I just wanted to make sure that was, the questions had opportunity to be discussed. And so that's it. So we might get out of here before midnight tonight. There's only 2 items getting pulled. All right. So.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. All right, so to be clear, we are pulling item 8, And item 10 from the consent agenda, and we have colleague Bernard and colleague Howard with the motions. And seeing no request to speak from the board, going to the public on all consent agenda items except the charter contract renewal and the policy.
Thank you very much for pulling those two items. Also, thank you to the staff for having those votes shown so clearly. I just have a comment on number 6 that I would hope that we move toward a final implementation where the water resources program is at McKinley High School rather than at a separate campus. Thank you.
Seeing no other
Good evening. Karonda Corley, parent and disabilities advocate. I would ask that you actually pull number 5. And I can be very open and honest with you for the reason. The reason.
So, Sister Corley.
Oh, stop my time. My time is 8.
Stop a time. We are past the point where you can pull.
I know. That's why I'm about to speak. I was going to elaborate on it.
Okay.
April, you ain't stopped my clock.
Okay.
My clock's still running.
Okay.
It was at 2 minutes and 41 seconds. I actually kept time. So I'm not actually trying to steal too much.
Okay, so long as you're clear that as you share your thoughts, we cannot pull it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you kindly.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Now, Miss April. Wait, don't start my time. You started my time. I had 2:41. I was going to tell you exactly when it started. Now you got it at 2:25. So the reason being is because the federal government, U.S. Department of Education, along with the Office of Special Education on the federal level, have actually disseminated new policies and procedures as it relates to individuals with disabilities, including as it relates to SROs, considering that our school system has just posted on the 15th a new job description for SROs, and those SROs will be dealing with children with disabilities. It does state how you will be legally liable and the things that they cannot do as it relates to the children and their parents. And it also expounds on the actual guidance on all of the legal rights, the parents of the children with disabilities that have 504 plans and IEPs, or a 504 or an IEP. So
make sure you tie it into that particular.
Stop my clock, April.
Girl, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So
tie it together.
So the reason that I'm asking that is because we do not have a policy in the handbook that reflects anything dealing with the SROs, but we do have a job description for the SROs that state that the SROs will be helping teachers teach and that they will be helping guidance counselors with guidance. Just in case you want to know where I got that information, that is directly on your website under the job descriptions. It says that these SROs will be in the classroom more than 30%. So I do think that if we're going to have them in our classroom, we actually need to make sure that we understand that, one, we are not paying these teachers the same amount that we're going to pay these SROs, but two, that the U.S. Department of Education, along with the Office of Special Education and the Office of Civil Rights, actually put out a new guidance as of July 18th. That being stated, we need a policy that is going to relate on how EBR school system and these SROs will be governing themselves as they intertwine and interact with our children with disabilities as well as their parents, in addition to any complaint process that the parents would be able to do as it relates to EBR before they actually take it to a state and federal level. And last but definitely not least, what trainings you're going to have them do, because it does also state that
now the training part, remember,
Stop
this
my
is
clock.
student rights and responsibility.
I had more than 10 seconds, but go ahead.
That now you're talking about personnel. You're not differentiating very well between personnel policy and student rights and responsibilities. But your time up, so I love you.
I love you too. Thank
All
you so
right.
much, Vice Chair, and I hope that we can actually have a policy that
Thank you,
actually
ma'am.
fall in
Thank
line.
you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other public comment. Back to the board, seeing no request to speak from the board. Madam Secretary, call the vote.
Please vote.
It's not even 7:00. Oh, thank you, ma'am. No.
The motion carries.
All right, now moving forward with item G8, charter contract renewal with Helix Mentorship, consideration of a request for the approval to renew the charter school agreement with Helix Mentorship and provide for related matters. Can I get a first? Board members Howard and Lannis is the second. Seeing no requests to speak from the board, public comment.
Thank you. James Finney again. I reviewed the copy of the current term for Helix based on the contract that was emailed to me by the General Counsel's office today. Under the section that says renewal, it says, well, first, the charter school contract shall be effective until June 30th of 2023 unless extended. The renewal states that the board shall conduct an evaluation of the charter school based on the evaluation and renewal standards outlined in district charter policy and Louisiana Revised Statute 17:3998. Then the charter contract shall be reviewed based on academic, financial, and organizational standards set forth in and district charter policy. And the next item, the charter school must receive a minimum of a school performance score of 60 for renewal, and so on. And I don't see any evidence in the backup that that review was done, or at least if it was, it's not referenced to policy. There is something in the backup that indicates there's something pending toward the bond commission. And I didn't see any backup with any details, so I checked with the Louisiana State Treasurer's Office, their general counsel. I have a pending record request. I would love to know who is asking for what that requires permission of the bond commission that would prompt you to defer from those charter policies that you worked so hard to adopt in recent years. So I don't think that there is a good reason that I've seen explained for Helix to be renewed early. And so in the absence of that, I think at a minimum, you should defer this to the August committee of the whole, get a full presentation and justification, and if that's provided, and it fits policy and statute, then by all means, give them the early renewal at the full meeting in August. But you don't have that, and you're risking breaking policy and Bessie policy and perhaps a statute. And I've noticed that some folks in the community cry wolf in the form of observing a wolf and figuring that the only way to deal with that wolf is to file litigation. Thank you for your time.
Hello again. Mentorship is one of the best charter schools in East Baton Rouge Parish. I volunteered there for 4 years, okay? They have really, the kids in 7805 had a hard time when the Sherman High School closed. Most of the kids in 7805, they said they cannot read, okay? Well, these same kids went to Mentorship Academy. They came from a failing school, and guess what? All of them graduated. I mean, every one of them. So I don't know what wolf he's talking about, but I know the wolves in 7805, Mentorship took care of them. So please pass a measure and renew it for mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Karonda Corley, parent, disabilities advocate. I will respectfully speak against mentorship. The reason being, number one, the speaker before me said that this was the best charter school. Actually, the best charter school is CSAL Madison Prep. But who's saying who's best, right? If I'm gonna tell the truth and shame the devil, the best one is CSAL Madison Prep. But number two, mentorship is a charter school. Well, their whole entire chain is a charter chain that discriminates against children with disabilities. They don't have children like mine that are actually able to attend the school. How do I know that? Because I actually went there and tried to enroll a couple. They did not. They denied them. So when we speak about children with disabilities and they're receiving public funding, they cannot practice discriminatory practices. Schools that receive federal funding have a legal obligated right to accept every single child, including children with 504 plans and children with IEPs. And that is not something that has ever been uplifted and that has ever been brought as a concern that actually needs to be addressed. We cannot give monies to schools that are segregated. I am very much aware that at Bessie, they shut down a charter school that was in New Orleans because it was an all-boys school. So if they shut it down because it was an all-boys school and they considered that as segregation and discrimination, why can't we do that when it comes to mentorship, Helix mentorship, when they're not taking children with IEPs? That's a discrimination and a segregation. And that is something that is legally covered up under the Office of Civil Rights. So when I state that we actually need to not give them public funding, we should not, because we would then be giving and upholding actual discriminatory practice. We do talk about how many children we have in the school system, that we have over 43,000, but we have more than 4,000 that actually have IEPs. That's not considering how many we actually have that are 504s. And when we also talk about discrimination, I never hear the number of how many children mentorship has, that Helix mentorship has, that are ELL learners, or should I say English language learners, or students that have English as a second language. So until they can give us those statistics and actually start meeting federal requirements, our answer should be no, no, no. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Collins, Dr. Narcisse, members of the board, Pastor Henderson. I just had a quick statement, real quick, as it relates to the Helix extension. I'm really seeing our board meetings. I don't know if I'm watching Nickelodeon and kids with the character attacks or it's the same old dog whistles. I'm just trying to figure it out. That's why I have my jacket on today. We continuously disrespect the superintendent and leadership team who's trying to put forth good efforts to move this district forward. You know, it's an old saying that Attorney General Jeff Landry said. He said that if you don't like Louisiana, move. I hear a lot about children with disabilities. I hear a lot about things that's not taking place. And we have to ask ourselves the question, if Dr. Narcisse is not doing his job, why is he still here? He's doing a phenomenal job. He's actually trying to address the things that the parent advocate says and the things that Mr. Finney and many others have said. You know, we have to stop with the dog whistles if we really just want to try to get together and move this district forward. I'm speaking as an African American. I want Mr. Finney and I want others who come up here and criticize the superintendent to come in North Baton Rouge and see what we do in North Baton Rouge, see the work that's taking place in North Baton Rouge, see the positive progress that this administration has put forward. Because I hear a lot of complaining, but I don't ever see these people who coming up here complaining and playing these adult games, the exceptional adult services games. I don't ever see them in the community. I see Dr. Collins in the community. I see some of you in the community. So I'm going to appeal to Mr. Finney and others. Come to North Baton Rouge. Spend time with kids who have not been able to get a quality education. The kids that can barely wash their clothes and who need that type of assistance. I hear a lot of things that you say, Mr. Finney, and many others. Spend time in North Baton Rouge. Because I know what the kids are going through, because I do this work every day. And I see a lot of people who get up here don't understand what the day-to-day children are going through. And those children at Mentorship Academy and many others should not be attacked based on they may be missing a few items. So when you get up here and you criticize this administration, I want to ask y'all a question. Have you been in our community to see what's going on? Because this is the most work I've seen come out of an administration. At least we actually got live humans answering the phones now.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, let me just ask the presiding officer over this meeting, apologize. I usually do a much better job of making sure or encouraging colleagues on the board as well as folks who come and make public comment to come and operate in love. You can make your very valid points without attacking one another. And so let's try to do that. Now, I can't stop you if that's how you choose to roll, but it is unnecessary because you can make your comments and make them very well and very eloquently without us putting each other down. Okay, so let us move forward. Oh, I did board member Lannis. Okay, and then I do have two questions. Has the review been, first, board counsel, can you go ahead and explain why it's coming before early? My basic understanding is that there's a bond issue, that they're trying to do something with a bond and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the school wants to build a facility. In order to do so, to secure a loan, they need assurance that that there'll be an operation, and so an early renewal will provide that assurance so that they can move ahead.
Okay, now, wasn't this done before
Yes, ma'am.
with this particular charter?
I'm not sure if
Okay,
it was this.
all right.
We have done it before. I'm just not sure if it's this particular charter.
Has a review of the charter been done?
Yes, ma'am. Now, we have a portfolio manager, Ms. Kim Boudreau, who conducts that review in accordance with policy. I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but it has been conducted. And I believe there is some backup on the memo. I looked online. If you go past the memo, there's backup as to academic
Past the memo.
performance, et cetera.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then they passed the muster in terms of the charter policy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, I won't get into the weeds about how a person believes they can finance it with the other properties they got, but I just want to at least make sure that we did our part in terms of making sure that they passed the muster in terms of our policy. And did they provide documentation of the bonding needs? Was it just they sent a letter and say this is what we need to do, or did they show some documentation that is in the works?
No, the documentation is required. I'm not the portfolio manager, so I don't actually do that work.
The bonding part
Yes, but
and the building facilities
yes,
stuff.
ma'am. But my understanding is that there are a number of visits that have to occur,
Okay.
as well as documentation review, et cetera, and all that's part of the process.
Okay.
And our academic folks may be able to speak to that in more detail.
Yes, Mr. Brickhouse, I don't know if Ms. Boudreau is here or if you can respond to Vice President Collins' question.
And in particular, I just need to know what did they show besides just saying they're going to get a building and need a bond?
So as far
Or
as
building
their-
a building.
as from the LDOE report, the 2018-2019 school performance score was a 69.2, which is a C.
Okay.
In addition, they also had A in the strength of diploma and an A in the graduation index. Also, they, according to the district report cards, they met all of their indicators. The only indicator that they did not meet was the students with disabilities, but all of the other indicators were all met.
Now, refresh my memory, if you will, on how we handle when they don't when they don't fall in line with the special needs.
Right now, it says that as far as the academic overall rating was met most, financial was met all expectation, organizational overall
How
was
far
met
off the
less.
mark were they on the special needs part?
Let's see. They were a little ways off. They had the result was 5.6% according to what I see here. But as I stated, there are quite a few indicators, and this is the only indicator that they did not meet.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. And no other requests to speak from the board. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward with item G10, consideration of a request for the approval of policy BCB, School Board Meeting Rules of Procedure. Can I get a motion? Board members Howard and Lannis. Recognizing board colleague Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Mr. Howard in particular for bringing this policy to us because governance is something that I'm committed to. And I appreciate Mr. Shamlin's work on it. I know that you worked very hard to make sure that we're in compliance with state law in making our meetings more efficient. I do have one little friendly amendment that I would like to offer to the maker and the second of the motion. Where in the paragraph where it says the superintendent and/or his designee, with the approval of the president, shall prepare a written agenda for each regular school board meeting, I would like to insert the words, shall prepare a concise and efficient written agenda. Would you accept that as a friendly amendment? Mr. Howard?
So, I don't mean I don't know how if we get so specific of like what is like the definition of concise and efficient. I mean, concise and efficient is the words that you use. I think based off of the provisions that are already aligned in the policy, I think that it's incumbent upon the administration to develop a concise and efficient agenda. So I don't necessarily know if the words add any substantive value. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Shamlin. So, I mean, if it for the sake of passage, yes, but I mean, I don't know if it adds any substantive value to the policy as an outline. If you can respond to that, Mr. Shamlin. That would be
And
great.
I understand that the entire policy is aimed at being concise and efficient with our time and the time of the public and all of that. It was just, a little phrase that I'm pretty committed to. Is something that I don't see a lot of. And I need everybody to be concise because it's a matter of getting to the business of the board and not spending a lot of time on extraneous things. But I can understand your reasoning. So that's a no then on accepting the friendly?
I mean, no, I don't think it's necessary because I think the whole theme of the policy is conciseness and efficiency. If it matters as it relates to the vote count, yes, but I mean, I don't think so. I'll say no for now and see what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Board colleague Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We haven't spent a lot of time on policy in the past, except that when we developed a new charter school policy, and we worked on this for quite a while, making sure that we had all our I's dotted, T's crossed, and that we were having a very efficient one. In with this policy, this is very important, and there are some things in it that, such as what Ms. Bernard mentioned around just making sure that our agendas are very efficient, having some accountability from staff and administration. The policy that we were looking to follow as a guideline comes from Metro Council, and it also speaks to acknowledging public comment in the area of, I think they say how many were in favor of an item and how many that were not in favor of an item. And then there was a piece that we spoke about last week around the time that staff can speak to an item, which particularly concerns me at committee of the whole, because that's when we get the bulk of our information or any explanations. And in order for us to make educated decisions above and beyond what we see in the backup is a very critical time for us when we're looking to make decisions. And I'm sure there are other things that we could look at that would make this even better than what we see here. And I appreciate the time and the effort, although it was very quickly done as far as the time that it came to us and the time that we looked at it and had any comments during committee of the whole. So for that reason, I would ask that we would defer the item to the August board meeting when we can have a little more input and kind of dissect it and, make it even better than it is now. I don't see a real push for time. I mean, it's not like it's like this is something that it's very critical as far as we don't have any real time constraint on this. And we all want to work toward having more efficient meetings, especially, I know this came out of the idea of limiting the time, the physical time to 9 p.m. And I know we're all on board with that. But there are a lot of things that we can do that would really make it more efficient so that we can really get to that goal without losing any of the information that we might need. I really appreciate the 5-minute limit because it will help the board to be more, just a lot more prepared in what they want to say and collecting their ideas and, making sure that things are concise and probably written. So I appreciate that. It'll help the board. And then the piece about, how do we implement when we have 5 people that are in line to comment, and then the time after those 5 may be shortened. There's just a lot of little things that I think that if we spent a little more time, which is only a month, to refine it, we would have a much better product. And this is very important because this is not just for this board. There's a new board coming on, and what we do right here is going to affect that board and the way that they operate. So I think it would be more efficient and responsible of us to take a little bit more time and consider those things that might be missing from the item. So I would move to defer to for 1 month to the August board meeting.
So we lost our board secretary for a second.
Okay.
You're making a motion.
To defer.
Okay.
Yeah, now, I had put my name in the queue, but,
Well, let's seek a second on that motion. Ms.
well, this is in relation to whether or not I would do a second. Okay. I agree that, what board colleague Bernard had mentioned, is in the spirit of the policy. And some people had shared concern about everybody sharing the responsibility of making sure that the meetings move efficiently, etc. It's difficult to put teeth into what that would look like for the administration because there may be something that really needs a certain amount of time, etc. And so that's why I was hesitant to myself say, well, if board members have 5 minutes and public have 3 and or 1 minute on different items, then administration should make sure they do whatever they do in 5 or 10 minutes, because that's just hard to gauge. But as I began to think on it, offering that language as a guiding principle, I thought might be worthy. You understand what I'm saying? Like, okay, let's just make sure that the spirit of the policy is acknowledging that everybody has a responsibility to keep the meeting going smoothly and efficiently. And so for me, it was satisfied, and I wouldn't necessarily need to, because I do hear my colleagues' concern about a deferment. If we could at least get that guiding that language expressed as a guiding principle, then I would appreciate. Okay, all right. So, colleague Ware Jackson, I'm with you in spirit, but I'm trying to negotiate. I don't think we would have it anyway. So we got us a good, friendly amendment and getting the spirit of that. And so I appreciate that. Okay, and so then colleague Bernard, if you would, can you repeat that so that it's clear, the friendly that you wanted to offer? And then I'll come to you.
So that'll be accepted, the amendment.
So to be clear, what I'm saying is I would have seconded your request to defer. But since they are willing to do a friendly and include the guiding language, then I'm going to stand down.
That will help cover some of this.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So to clarify, Ms. Ware Jackson made a motion to defer but did not have a second. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're back to the original motion with an amendment,
Yes.
with friendly amendment.
Thank you. They both accept.
You do.
So just repeat the language for them so they can make sure they have it on the record.
Okay, it's just in the place where it's one sentence that says the superintendent and/or his designee, with the approval of the president, shall prepare and it's insert the words concise and efficient written agenda for each school board meeting. It's just those 3 words, concise and efficient. And there is no definition of concise and efficient. And I know you're attorneys and you want that defined. And I apologize. I just think that it's just in the spirit of it, it's not really necessary for work, but in the spirit of it. But thank you for accepting the friendly. I appreciate it.
Okay. So, yes, Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. And with respect to board colleague, Ms. Connie Bernard, thank you for the friendly. I think in essence or the reason why the policy was created was to offer more concise and efficient board meetings. I know for a fact no one likes getting out of a board meeting at 12 o'clock at night and 12 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the morning. It's beyond dreading in our community as a whole. I know they or we as a board should be more willing to listen to them than actually hear ourselves talk. And I think there was President Tapman that said it at the last meeting. Preparing for board meetings are just as important as coming here. And when we start preparing for meetings before we get here, that means that we have a less of a load of questions that we want to ask the public, and we can hear from the public more, and we can be more efficient again and be more concise in the decisions that we make as a board. And I just wanted to lift that up and say that I think that this also comments another policy that both myself and Attorney Shamlin have to work on, which is going to be the standing committees. I think by allowing the standing committees along with this particular policy, it's going to put us in a much better place in terms of governance as a board. The standing committees will allow our community to ask the much needed questions from board members as well as staff about items that are going to appear on either the COW or the regular board agenda. And by the time we get inside of these meeting rooms, there's less questions that we have to ask staff and more questions that we can rely on our public to ask towards either our board or either staff members. So again, I think this is a necessary policy. I'm happy that the substitute motion was pulled, because this is not a can we should kick down the road. I think this is something we need to vote on tonight. Thank you.
Board Member Howard.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. And he just stole my thunder yet again. But what I was going to say is, like, the whole spirit of the policy was about conciseness and efficiency, and I want to continue to name that. I also want to offer up to my fellow colleagues and potential colleagues of this board, because I see many candidates in the audience, the spirit of this board and what you do as a governing body is to create policy solutions. And so we can't continue to wordsmith every single thing that we do to provide the work that we're supposed to be doing as a governing body. There are innovative ways that we collectively can be responsible for making sure the public is being heard. I've been on this board for 4 years, and I haven't seen anyone offer up an opportunity, an additional opportunity to create innovation around how we hear the public. And so I know last week it was said several times about this being a public gag order, and I want to continue to denounce that mischaracterization of this intent of this policy. And then, in the spirit of denouncing that, encourage folks on this board to do the homework to create innovative opportunities to hear from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, board colleague Howard. And I just want to go ahead and say that board colleague Howard had already been trying to get something. And so then I also said, well, he right. Okay, so he had been trying to get this for a couple of months. So I pushed for this to be on the agenda, because it is ridiculous for us to be in here until midnight. Okay. By the time 9, 10 o'clock comes, we are all tired, unless some of us are blessed to be retired, but most of us work a 9 to 5, etc. And the public that attends work 9 to 5s, and they have children, and they got to get home and do, and our staff. Okay, so we do have to figure out how to be more efficient with our time. I do my research. And when I ask a lot of questions, it's very intentional, because I want to make sure the public understand details behind stuff. I don't ask a lot of questions because I ain't do my homework. I can't speak for everybody, but I did want to mention that, and I'm going to make sure I efficiently ask my questions during that 5 minutes that I'm allotted. And I'll be doing like Sister Congress Lady Maxine Waters and reclaiming my time when I don't get efficient answers from staff, etc. So we all have a lot of work to do to make sure that we are responsible stewards of our time and the public's time, and not be continuously being here until midnight. And so, colleague Bernard, you had something else to say or no?
Yeah, real briefly. I just wanted to say that there are public bodies that do not take comment on every agenda item. There is an opportunity for the public to comment once during the meeting for all agenda items. So in other words, the potential for 60 minutes that a person has to speak, 3 minutes on each item, 20 agenda items, an individual member of the public could potentially speak for 60 minutes in our meetings, 3 on each item, would not exist. And so I do find that the policy that we are offering right now tonight is very progressive because we still do allow the public to comment on each item. So I am very much in favor of the policy, and I appreciate you guys offering it. Thanks.
All right, public comment.
Thank you. I'm Dr. James Finney, a 20-year resident of North Baton Rouge and parent of 3 graduates of McKinley High School. This policy has only been in front of the public for a little more than a week. Granted, at least a couple of the board members, maybe several, who've been bouncing around ideas for longer than that. But I don't see what the rush is. I think the suggestion to put this off until August was perfectly reasonable. It's more important to get this right than to get it fast. We should be encouraging, not discouraging public comment. With respect to Ms. Bernard's point, the public is allowed to comment on every agenda item because state law requires that school boards allow the public to comment on every agenda item. So I still don't consider this progress. I don't think the public comment part is the big problem, though. I think the problem is when you as a majority would seek to hamstring the ability of my representative, whoever that might be in January, to comment, to filibuster, to ask plenty of questions, to demand answers. That's not efficient. That's government. This is a deliberative body. Sometimes deliberation takes time. So I would encourage Ms. Ware Jackson to try one more time to get that second and consider deferring this. Not forever. Just talk about it some more at the committee of the whole and then settle on something that everybody can agree on that doesn't seem so scary to those of us in the public that are worried about the Chamber of Commerce running everything. That is a legitimate concern. Whether any of you want to take that as a personal attack or not, facts are facts, perception is reality. Again, I know there are votes to pass this, but I think what you would pass in August would be a stronger policy, more likely to result in short meetings and good governance than what you would rush to adopt tonight. The 3-word addition was a good addition. There may quite possibly be other very beneficial and worthwhile additions, corrections, and other adjustments to this proposed policy. Thank you.
Storm Matthews. My biggest concern with the policy, shocking to you all, is not the public comment piece. I'm a girl from Bedford-Stuyvesant. I'm going to say what I'm going to say and I'm going to get it in. It's y'all's piece. When y'all call somebody up here to answer a question, that shouldn't come out of your 5 minutes. I think you should have 5 minutes. I like the 5 minutes. But I think that when you call somebody up here, if they eat up your time, possibly purposefully, that should not come out of your 5 minutes. Also, can we look at adding Board Member Diason's item, possibly as a attachment to this, of the action item of getting all documents requested from the superintendent within, was it 3 days? And if not so, just saying, it was very friendly, saying, we can't get this to you in this day, it'll be on this date. That also will move things more efficiently. That'll make sure you are able to be prepared by the board meeting. I think that could be added as well.
Good afternoon, Pastor Henderson. I think this is a good start that Dr. Howard is pushing forward. I know Ms. Dyson's been on here for a while because I've watched Ms. Dyson watch me grow up. So it's Ms. Bernard. So this is a good policy, and this again helps the framework for our superintendent who's trying to move the district forward. And I do think he's doing a phenomenal job. Tramiel, you've done a phenomenal job in our district too. And so I do think, thank you, Tramiel, for bringing this forward because this does help organize the board meetings. And so, I think y'all should pass this.
Let's try to turn it down. Wait, let's see. Let's turn it down. Thank you. Karonda Corley, parent and disabilities advocate. And let me say, this is going to be extremely problematic now because we have accommodations that are needed for children with disabilities. So I would like to bring up two different things. House Concurrent Resolution number 112 that was passed this legislative session by Representative Amadi and Garofalo that speaks about public comment and about the public actually being able to submit public comment electronically as well as via mail so that they can participate to the fullest extent possible. This bill was passed on behalf of individuals with disabilities. Another law that I would like to bring up is Louisiana Revised Statute 42:19 that speaks about everything that we're supposed to do as a governing body as it relates to public comment and open meeting law. So when we talk about the public comment, number one, in Revised Statute 42:19, it says that the public is supposed to have the right to comment. They're not supposed to have a limit as far as in you decreasing the limit past 3 minutes. When you go to Bessie and when you go to the House and the Senate committees, you have that time frame. So the time frame of 3 minutes is within what all governing bodies are doing here in the state. So why would we want to create a policy that is going to decrease that and that's not going to be in line? Number one. Number two, we're not making sure that our individuals with disabilities can actually fully participate into our actual governing of these meetings. There's a gentleman that is a paraprofessional with the school system that always come up here that has a disability, and he faithfully states how he has a disability and that he need accommodations to actually be able to speak. So it may take him a little longer than 3 minutes to actually get his full statement out. But under this policy, we would actually interfere with that accommodation that is actually protected by civil rights. You cannot create policies that violate federal laws. This is what happens when we continue to actually try to do things without actually doing our real research. And that was part of the main thing that we talked about was research. The board members have to do research, right? Because that's part of the problem. Each board member not playing their part. But also, you can't get mad at when the public come up here and they call you out on it and state it. I actually did my research and actually pulled up these laws. And if I was able to do them via Google and actually be in the Capitol when a concurrent resolution passed, then I think that it should be something that our board actually take into strong consideration to make sure that they're a part of those governing bodies as well. Thank you so much.
Seeing no other public comment, board, huh? Oh yeah, back to the board. Board council, I did not necessarily notice, so I'm asking, there's something in here that says that, you know, the policy must be in compliance with the law. There's a clause.
Well, the general rule is all policy has to be in compliance with law. The school board can't pass policy that violates law.
So as implied.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm glad that Sister Corley brought to our attention those bills that were passed, but then that does mean that we have to fall in line with that, correct, with the electronic comments.
Yes, ma'am. And as a reminder to this board, generally when the legislative session ends, which it did, we await recommendations from Forethought and from external counsel for additional policy amendments. So it usually come through August, September. And so those changes will be recommended later. And so any changes in the law will be reflected in policy amendments within the next 60 days or so.
Well, that's good because she did remind me that a constituent had concern about the electronic comments. And so then her concern on that is addressed through that law that was passed. Okay. Seeing no... colleague, Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I appreciate the policy and I appreciate us being able to be done by 9. There are some concerns that, will not be addressed with the policy as it is. And that's okay. We may have to make some revisions down the line if we're not in line with what the state is saying. I also wanted to ask, don't we have something in place right now for to be able to see public comment as we move through the board meeting, through board docs, or?
Yes, ma'am. You mean the digital public comments, electronic public comments?
Right. I remember some people asked about that some time ago, about acknowledging the public comments or making sure that the board had the ability to see those comments during the meetings.
Yes, ma'am. There's a link under the board section of the website that links to the public comments for the current meeting. It's updated as comments are added. You don't have to log in. You just
On
click the
board
link.
docs?
No, ma'am. It's on the website.
Oh, we need to be on the website at the same time to see.
Well, if there's a link, I mean, we could potentially add a link to board docs if you'd like that, right?
Yes. Maybe that would be helpful so that we could see those things. And as you mentioned this, I want to thank April, our board secretary, for putting the link to the policy book on board docs. Before it wasn't there, so now, if we need to take a look at something, it's a lot easier to just go and take a look. So thank you, April. I do appreciate that.
Ms. Webb Jackson will let April speak to the first question as well. She's got additional information.
So to read the comments, we can add a tab like we have your request to speak tab at the top. We can put a link there for you to be able to look at them during the meeting. Outside of the meeting, you can see them on the website. Tells you how to see the current ones and past meetings.
Good. I think that would be very helpful for all of us. Thank you very much.
I also want to, and I'll deal with this offline, but I'm letting it be known that those online comments, if they can have a additional option to click. So yes, they can freeform type what they want to type, but then yay or nay for that item. Just like they submit a card in committees or what have you. Okay.
We'll check with IT. That
Just
may be
add.
doing. Yes,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
let
not,
you-
and that's not a policy thing. That's a, Okay. All right. So that's I have no other comments, and I don't see any other. You want to mention something? Okay. All righty, Madam Secretary, can you please call the vote?
Please vote. The motion carries.
Okay, moving forward with new business. Item H1, adoption ratification of redistricting plan. Discussion, consideration for the approval of a resolution for the adoption and ratification of the Ware Collins Plan 111 redistricting plan. Can I get a motion? Yes, board colleague.
I'd like to move that we defer the item to the August meeting due to new information around. I know there's a lot of things that's happened in the last couple of days, And although this is the only plan that the board, the only of there are two maps that move forward. The other one is caught up in, in litigation. This one has basically been stayed, and then there's new litigation around this, and which would alter the resolution itself. And also the board attorney, under his advice, states that we would need to advertise for 20 days before we would have a public hearing. And so I would like to move that we defer the item and to the August 18th board meeting. And this would also allow us to advertise before any public hearing that might take place after those 20 days.
So, Ms. White Jackson, let me speak to that just a second. In order to advertise, we require board action to do that. So I just want to clarify, we can't advertise without the board approving the advertisement moving forward. And also that holds for the public hearing, which will be held in a special meeting. The board would need to approve the special meeting to hold the public hearing. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, all right. It doesn't take a vote of the board to do something that's required by statute. We did advertise both of those maps previously, so we would need to, are you saying that we would need to vote again to?
No,
to
ma'am,
advertise?
I was just going by your recommendation that we advertise. We would definitely need to hold a public hearing at a minimum. There's been no public hearing on this map if it were to be adopted. That would require an action of the board. You need to set a public hearing to discuss that map with the public before adopting it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shamlin, would you repeat that?
So the law requires that you advertise a map for 20 days in advance of a public hearing before you adopt it. That's the process that the statute requires. In the past, this board's practice has been to approve the advertisement, set the special meeting, and then adopt the map. That's been the process. And so I think your request was to consider adoption of the map. So when we talked, I said, to be safe, my recommendation would be to advertise the map and then hold a public hearing to make sure you adhere to the law, right? And then as we talked, you said, well, you wanted to move ahead with considering the adoption. My understanding tonight is that you want to defer this until August, considering some new information. I'm only suggesting that if we ever adopt this map to comply with the law, you would need to make sure it's been advertised appropriately and that there's been a public hearing to discuss the map. Okay?
In light of all of the litigation that is taking place, I want to make sure that we are moving in the right direction as far as making sure that we're following all the rules and regulations, as they say. So so if it means that we need to, you're saying that we need to vote to advertise?
We would need to introduce a motion to advertise the map. Yeah. And that's how we handled the previous process.
Well, then I would change that then to that particular motion, Mr. Shannon.
So you are changing your motion to a motion to advertise the map
Yes.
in compliance with statute?
Right. Before we would have a hearing to possibly adopt the map. Since this is the only one that doesn't break any state statutes or federal laws.
So we would need a second.
And it's to advertise. Colleague, can I offer a motion to defer to August 18th after we have more information about new litigation. And that way we can know how to best move forward on this particular map.
Yes, because that's a big piece of my concern is all of the new litigation that's come forward, and we don't know what is going to happen in the next week or month. So that's a big part of why I
That's a
want to
major
defer.
part of your concern, is to try to figure out how to address that
Yeah,
issue.
because there's just so much in the air right now.
Okay.
So
All
for
right.
clarification, you want to return to the original motion to defer to the August regular meeting.
18th meeting.
August.
Regular, yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry, yes. Okay, all right. Okay, oh, and I'll second, I'm sorry. All right. And then Board Colleague Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This is a legal question. I'm just curious, is it possible for us to move an item that is currently under litigation? My understanding is that this is an appellate court. So there are several things that could happen. One, the appellate court could say, no, we don't go with the 11-member ruling, and then we're back inside of a situation where we move something that can't move anyway. Or there could be a situation where the court case may not come up on August 18th. So we're back in a bind again. So I just wanted some clarity around that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Landis. The motion to defer is not a motion to approve or move an item. It's just simply deferring it. So there's no board, technically, no board action. Additionally, this map is not before the court well, it is before the court, but a decision is expected to be rendered, and this is part of the report I'll make later, on August 10th at the Court of Appeals level as to this map's determination and the other map that's also been approved by the board. So to answer your question, you can defer this. I don't see an issue with deferring this if that's the intent of Ms. Ware Jackson. With the understanding that any decision made by the Court of Appeals on August 10th might make this a moot issue.
I just wanted to, for legality purposes, Attorney Shamlin. So we moved this item to August 18th. Like, I understand that part of it, but being that this is in court, like, I just want you to give us some like guidance, because like, so let's say the court decides that, you know what, the trial level made a bad decision. The Court of Appeals says like we're throwing out the whole thing, like just giving us some guidance as to what we should be thinking about. Like, are we gonna have to start this process all the way over? Like, are we like what? Because I know he said like this map was the map, but that was one judge. So what is like do we have to start redistricting over? Like, we have elections coming up, we have people, like all of the things. Like, there's just so many moving parts for us to like even be talking about like this legal thing. So I just wanted some guidance as to what we should be thinking about or preparing for as it moves in the court, depending on the decision that happens August 10th. And I know that matters, but there should be some, because that'll be the week after. Like, should we be starting this over? Should April be putting maps on the board, like, or whatever?
So to answer your question, I can't answer that question, right? And I'm being honest with you. I can't read the Court of Appeals minds. I won't sit here and try to pretend to tell you what the decision will be. A number of decisions could be made by the court. Each one of them would have a different ramification for this board. And so we would have to wait. There's a potential that we would have to start the process over. There's a potential we'll have a map to move forward with, right? And so I can't speak to that with any certainty tonight, and I'm just being honest with you. But there's nothing wrong with deferring this action to August. It may just be a moot point at that point.
Okay, and then for clarity on the appeal court decision, my understanding was that the appeal courts kept part and denied, all my terms all mixed up, acting like I ain't just finished law school, accepted part of the lower court and then denied part of the lower court. And so what they accepted from the lower court was that the vote that was taken for the 9-member map was that map is null. The only question is now what to do on the appeals level. And so then what they didn't agree with in the 19th JDC was that procedurally, it was improper for the judge to say we had to adopt the Ware Collins, but it doesn't hold the Ware Collins. Doesn't say the Ware Collins is null. It doesn't say anything except that the lower court could not have us do the Ware Collins. But the 9-member map, in fact, is still null.
Keep it simple. There's been no decision by the Court of Appeal other than to say you can move forward with neither map until we make a decision. And so we're at this point, the board is stopped until a decision by the Court of Appeal is made finally as to how to move forward.
But they held in part and all right, I'm gonna let it go. But the reading I understood was the 9-member map is null and they agreed.
No, they stayed the use of it. So without going into too much detail, the district court, the trial court ordered this board to utilize the Ware Collins map and prohibited the use of the 9-member map adopted by the board.
Okay.
When it went to Court of Appeals, a decision was made immediately to overturn part of that decision. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Basically said we could not move ahead with implementing the Ware Collins map. And there's been no decision, but it did not speak to or determine what would happen with the trial court's decision around the 9-member map. So we are essentially in a place where we can move forward with neither map until the Court of Appeal makes a decision as to how to move forward.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna look back at my understanding for my state.
And listen, there's a report.
And you the legal paid counsel, so I respect what you're saying. But for me to process what I read, I'm gonna go back and look.
And there's a report on this agenda that actually provides you specifically with what the decision was, how the decisions were made, and where we are. But I can meet with you afterwards if needed as well and talk through it.
All right. Yeah, because I was not here for the presentation on last week. All right. Thank you kindly. Madam Secretary, please call the vote. We didn't do the board? I mean the audience. All right, public comment. No public comment, back to the board. No further requests to speak. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote.
Yeah.
Refresh your screen. The motion carries.
Moving forward with item H2. Huh?
Ma'am.
This was to defer. Okay. No. It was yay.
I need to correct that.
Oh, sorry guys. When I clicked open the vote, it took all of y'all's off. So can y'all please vote again? The motion still carries.
Thank you. Moving forward with item H2. Discussion, consideration of an application from International Mesotechnologies Incorporated for an industrial tax exemption and related matters. Moved by board colleague Bernard, seconded by board colleague by Board Colleague Dyerson. Seeing no request to speak from the board, any public comment?
Two things I'm going to say every time an ITEP exemption comes directly to a board meeting. Number one, this makes it appear to be an emergency. There's no reason this shouldn't have come through the committee of the whole, other than the expectation that you're just going to rubber stamp every piece of corporate welfare that comes before you. Number two, when the voters approved a property tax, they approved a property tax based on a fair market value, not corporate exemptions. I think you should deny every ITEP request that comes before you for the rest of however long you serve on the board. Thank you.
Storm Matthews. I agree this didn't go through the cow. That's kind of confusing, but I don't like ITEP ever. That money belongs to our students. That money belongs to our schools. We just spent an exhaustive amount of time talking about how much money we're going to need for next year once we run out of ESSER, and that comes back to the general fund. So I don't think giving away that money that could be coming in is a very good idea.
School board members, superintendent, Mr. Shamlin, Donnie Miller from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber to talk to you a little bit about this project, maybe give you some details of what this project entails. This is a industrial property tax exemption for International Mesotechnologies. What's fascinating as we talk about the growth of companies, we like to see an increase in trajectory. In 2019, they invested north of $270,000. In 21, north of $380,000. And today, what's before you is north of $555,000. So they're continuing to grow. I think that's the story that's here. But the project description is design, engineering, and manufacturing of heat exchangers, which is the core of International Mesotechnologies. They're adding new machinery, manufacturing equipment, tooling, new software, and continuing to grow in North Baton Rouge. They're estimated to add 2 additional jobs, which taking their job count from 44 to 46, adding additional payroll of $100,000, taking existing payroll from $3.5 million up to $3.6 million. And again, that is continuing to grow. Those dollars are being redistributed back into the community. So what does the project look like in a 10-year abatement and / revenue? So over 10 years, the revenue from this is going to add over $75,000. For 20 years, over $138,000. For you, I'd like to carve out what the school board abatement is over 10 years, which is $34,216. I think this is an investment that continues to add value into the community. This is a company that was just acquired, and it is going to be growing exponentially. As I'm having conversations with company representative here today, this 46 is going to be dwarfed on the number that they're continuing to grow. So this is just one of those success stories, that came out of a small operation, continues to grow here in Baton Rouge. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Seeing no other requests to speak, no other public comment, back to the board. Board Colleague Gode.
Yes, thank you. And I guess this would be for you, Mr. Miller, or a representative. I did read in the paper where this company is being acquired by, I can't remember, I think it was a investment bank, Arcelius or something like that. I don't remember. And so I just want, that can go cut 2 ways. And I just want, if someone is here from the industry or from the company, to talk about what is the plans that they believe that this has, because I do support the growth of this company. But I would also like a little bit of assurances that the intention of their new owners is to continue to expand here in Baton Rouge.
That's a great question.
As we do that.
Let me ask Mr. Kevin Kelly to come up
Thank
and
you.
maybe answer some questions on the trajectory of the company and the growth here in Baton Rouge.
I know being acquired can be a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and just want to get some more input on that.
How y'all doing? Yes, that was an important part of the deal, and they love our people. They've made a pretty big commitment to keeping the people they've got, and they have no intentions of leaving Baton Rouge. And I think we're looking forward to just having more resources and being able to, add to the building and add to the people. But we don't own the company as much anymore, so theoretically something could happen, but I get no sense that they're not here to stay in Baton Rouge.
Thank you. I just wanted to get that on the record before anyone asks questions about it. Thank you very much.
Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I think the name of that company was Arcline Investment Management. That's the company that's acquiring Meso, International Meso. Donnie, haven't seen you in a while, man. Like the beard. Quick question. Have they met all requirements under ITEP for the exemption?
For this current, yes.
So just again, for the record, they met all requirements?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had to ask. Okay, thank you.
Board colleague, Dyson.
Yes, I just wanted to thank y'all for coming tonight and sharing with us. This growth is exceptional, and so pleased that we are continuing to invest in Baton Rouge. Thank you.
Donnie. Donnie know I love him. Donnie.
Good to be loved. Thank you.
I admit on this particular item, I'm just glancing at this particular backup. The project was started and completed already?
Yes. Project has started. It kicks off with the advanced notification, which notice to the state, which allows the company to start purchasing and start installing. Then it goes to the Board of Commerce and Industry after an application is filed, which was approved.
But they didn't start the project before they submitted the application?
No project
okay. That's what I'm
until the advanced
intended to
notification.
ask. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there will still be an affidavit of final cost that will be filed, which will be like an itemized receipt of the entire spend and all the expenditures back to the state.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Moving forward with item H3. Consideration, discussion of a request to approve an allocation from the ESSER 2 Action 2 budget for $500,000 and the ESSER 3 Action 2 budget for $572,500 stipend line items for the payment of a one-time sign-on bonus for $7,500 for new teacher hires for the 2022-23 school year. Can I get a motion? Lannis and the Go Day, that was you that seconded. I think I heard first. Okay. Board Member Lannis.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I just want to say thank you to the superintendent for bringing this item forward. I think this is a good start. My only hope is that we can increase the amount of money that we bring in to recruit more teachers inside of our district. But I did want to commend the effort. Thank you.
Seeing no other requests to speak from the board. Seeing no other board member Howard.
Thank you. I too want to share that sentiment, and I just think that this is a start. And I think that one of the things that we from around the country as we visit this issue, like it's a serious issue. And I think that we have to figure out more to pay teachers, like we all know that, but like what are the incentives that we're giving to our teachers to come into our districts? As we look at neighboring parishes, many of the conversations is around like how their pay scales are outweighing our pay scales. And I think that one of the things that we talk about with teaching is like having proper representation inside of classrooms. And it's just such a systemic issue that goes into like who's actually able to teach. And so figuring out ways to offer additional opportunities for this kind of work to happen. I think that even post ESSER, like there should be a commitment from this board to figure out how to properly give teachers the desired salaries that they need to be successful in this district, and really recreate what it means to be a teacher and how do we elevate the profession, not only through incentives, but in supports inside of schools. So I do think this is a good start. I like the 3-year commitment that teachers have to not only get the sign-on bonus, but commit to being a part of this district, but making sure that we're putting the systems and structures in place to support them throughout just the sign-on bonus. I think one of the things that I learned as a teacher is that the salary was one thing, but what I really appreciated the most were the supports inside of my school to make sure that I was successful and had the ability to advance my profession. So I think this is a great start, but figuring out ways as a board, as a collective board, to continue this kind of initiative so that we can stay in it post ESSER funding. So thank you.
Board colleague Dyson.
Yes, we've been talking about these kind of incentives for quite some time, and so I am in favor of this. And I also, though, would like to ask the superintendent. We've had discussions about potential stipends for our teachers, and I'd like to get some concrete time frame on when we can expect this to come to the board as well for our current teachers. And keep us updated on that.
Yes, based on our conversation we had around when we did our compensation still, I will be bringing to the board next August. This August coming up, the 2 stipends. One will be the recommendation to stipend everyone in the system for the fall, and then everyone in the system for the spring. As discussed when we started doing the compensation scale, that will take care of the entire staff for this year. And then the following year, as you know, that our goal is to raise salaries up 8%, so we can make sure that the entire district is competitive in the entire region. That's part of our compensation strategy.
And we should be looking for on an ongoing basis for cuts and ways that we can become more effective at savings so that we can afford to do these things. I know that the actual pay raises aren't ready to come to us for a vote. I appreciate that the stipends at least are coming for this next month, our following meeting, our next meeting, but to keep us updated along the way on what it's looking like and how we are going to get to that 3-year goal of a 12% increase for our teachers.
My as I shared before, my commitment is to get the district up every year, as we discussed, and also make sure we bring a balanced budget every year as well.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Board colleague Gode.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Is Ms. Hall in the audience? Oh, there she is. I was just curious if you could fill us in on where we stand right now on the number of vacancies that we are trying to fill, and how does that compare to past years? I have to get you up here once in a while.
I know. And whoever raises the mic, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so right now, as of today, we have 233 vacancies, teacher vacancies. That's about 7.8% district-wide. And the last 3 years, in 2019, 2020, 178, 2020 to 21, 233, and 21, 22, 219. So, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Yes.
So we have our work cut out to do, but it's very similar to what it's been in years past.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we understood that, yeah, we have a good job to do, but we have a good person to do it with a good department behind her
Yes.
to try to make those things happen. So, thank you for all your hard work, and I hope this helps. And, because one of the things I notice in our salary curves is we tend to be under our neighboring parishes for beginning teachers, and this will help cure that ill until we get to the new salary schedules and work that. So thank you very much for your work.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say that I'm going to compromise on this. I'm not going to vote no. I'm going to abstain because I'm not against a bonus. What I'm against is figuring out how to take care of brand new people without first taking care of existing staff and teachers, especially after it has been brought up several times. I know myself, I know colleague Dyson, I know myself personally from the very beginning, since last year, I kept saying, can we do some kind of teacher incentive, some kind of pay raise, etc., as other districts in Louisiana and across the nation have done. And I have been getting a runaround on that from the very beginning. First, we just couldn't do it, despite everybody else doing it. Then once it was brought to my attention that the U.S. Department of Education Secretary Cardozo said, please do it, then no money, okay, for existing teachers and staff. And this is going to cause a lot of heartburn for our existing teachers and staff. It's one thing to say we're going to do something in 2024. It's one thing to say we're going to throw them some more. We're not going to get them $7,500 for putting up with us and being to retain them. The stipend ain't going to be $7,500 for teachers that have chosen to stay with us, at least based on our previous stipends. And so, but I am in support of trying to attract new people. I just believe it was not done in proper order. So I'm not going to vote no, but the best I could do is abstain to show support of that aspect. But then also, I can't vote yes because for me, voting yes is me saying I'm not going to fight for existing staff and teachers. I want to see something substantive in August. And so, thank you. Board colleague Dyson.
Yes, and I had very much hoped that we could get them simultaneously because I truly do believe that we need our existing staff who have stayed with us through all of the challenges for the past few years. They need to be rewarded as a retention stipend. And so that's why I did want to get the assurance during this public meeting that will be coming to our board in August. Thank you.
Seeing no other requests to speak from the board, public comment.
Storm Matthews. I love the idea of a sign-on bonus. In fact, I asked for it on record when we talked about the CSM and the impact letters. I'm also the one that said to do the 3 years. But at the same time, I said reward those that have been in the trenches. I said that when we were talking about those 549 people that were on the transfer list. Y'all can go back and watch the tape. All right, let's talk about all the people that are leaving. Let's talk about those numbers because I went in and went on the personnel changes. April, 68 teachers left. May, 75 teachers left. June, 80. July, as of July 11th, 109 teachers left. That is a total of 332 teachers that have left this district since the impact letters. We are tired. We are humans. We are tired. And you gonna give new people who ain't put up with all of this foolishness $7,500? Oh, no, baby. It is my understanding that stipend, Board Member Dyson, Board Member Landis, you have fought for the teachers to have stipends. Dawn, you have fought for teachers to have stipends. You said for it to be ready before August. That's what you said when they had the compensation study. No, I've heard it's ready today. By unanimous vote, this board can add an agenda item. You get those teachers, the current teachers, that stipend today, then yeah, go ahead and approve this. But guess what? Those teachers are watching right now. See, this was slipped in the last second so that we wouldn't see it, wouldn't know that it was on the agenda. They're busy. They got kids. They couldn't make it, but they are furious. And you have a good handful of them that's still mad and already saying, it's all right. I already have my other job. I'm quitting August 1st. You're going to have more quit. 3 more quit my school this week that aren't reflected in this 332. Take care of your current educators. We are tired. This miscommunication, and we don't trust you. Baby, we don't trust you for nothing. We don't trust your communication. What have you given us to trust you? And you think that we're going to believe in assurance? Jill, all due respect, boo. We don't trust in assurance that it's going to come back. No, we don't believe that. Bring it tonight.
Thank you, James Finney. Miss Matthews is absolutely correct. Every action has consequences. You should be very careful about the vote you're about to make. Think about why this is coming before the full board meeting at the last minute and why it didn't go through the committee of the whole. Think about whether you're being put in a position where a vote no, which is the fiscally responsible vote, has been engineered so you look like you don't want to attract teachers. That is unfair manipulation by the visitor from Maryland, and you should not tolerate it. With the 2 funds with which he is proposing to pay for this stipend for new teachers, it is not clear how that's going to modify the budget that you passed last week for each of those. What are you not going to spend $500,000 in the one fund? And what are you not going to spend $500,000 on in the other fund? And if you're not going to abide by the budget even for a week, why bother passing a budget? Oh yeah, because that's one of the 3 things that you are legally obligated to do. You should use that $10 million and whatever has been designated but not revealed yet for a token little stipend for the people that have hung on, put that money in a pool and rewrite the salary schedule so everybody gets a raise this year, so you don't have to play games about whether you get punished because you missed 11 days or 21 days and you didn't have the documentation right. Figure out how much you can afford this year. The visitor from Maryland has promised a huge raise for everybody
Mr.
a year
Finney.
from now.
Mr. Finney, try to speak in kindness, sir. With the visitor from Maryland. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
You knew who I was talking about. There is an opportunity cost if you approve this. And then some details. I'm reminded of the last stipend and some technical details that were a problem for that. For one thing, one of the bullet points is these people must be hired as far as 2 months ago. Were these people promised this bonus? I mean, they've already been hired. What is the point of the bonus? You're going to reward them for having agreed to a contract 2 months ago? That's not much of a recruitment tool, unless they've already been promised. It says they must be employed in a core area of math, science, social studies, or English. That would suggest that special education is not a high need area. I'm happy if that's an assurance that special ed is fully staffed, but I doubt if that's the case. What are the consequences if somebody doesn't abide by their 3-year commitment. So for those and many other reasons, please defer this consideration until the August Committee of the Whole. Thank you very much.
Seeing no other public comment. Oh, all right. Okay, two people.
Get up here. Good evening, board members, Vice President Collins. I am a 42-year educator. And it's inflation time. To award $7,500 to people coming in, teachers coming in, and I don't knock that, but as was said, you need to take care of the ones that was here through the pandemic, that stuck out their necks and work with these children, put their life on the line, their family members. I'm gonna agree with what the previous Dr. Finney said. Put this off and find the money for your people. They're going to leave. You're gonna be in the same shape or worse shape. And to put this kind of money, you're hurting their retirement. These people are gonna come in making more money than your current teachers that's gonna leave. It's a national shortage. We will do anything to get teachers or to retain them, or the school system I work in use $6,000 to retain certified people. Support staff got $3,000. We're gonna get it again this year. It made people stay, but some of them left because they were offering money like this in other places. So again, the salaries are gonna surpass the people that you currently have here working that will stay here because they love East Baton Rouge Parish School System. But you have some that's gonna leave. They're gonna drive the miles. St. Tammany, if my memory serves me correct, needs 98 teachers, and they're gonna get these people, they're gonna carpool, they're gonna leave EBR, Superintendent Narcisse, and this board if you don't put something in place ahead of awarding $7,500 to teachers to retain and keep them here. And you better be mindful of your bus operators and your support staff too. They need money also. It's inflation time. It hurts the pocketbook to try to pay your bills. Food, everything has gone up. So you need to look for money for the board, the entire board, because he can't do anything without your vote to take care of these people. Thank you for listening.
Hattie Merrick on behalf of the retirees and any teacher. I want to know what a new hire is. So if you're going to give $7,500 for a new hire, then I want to be a new hire. That means I can come back. Okay, so I need to know who can and who can't come back, because you get ready to get into a problem now, because you already hire, let's see, how many people do you have on staff that have 3 checks? Let's get into it. Let's get to the real nitty gritty right now. The people who you have kept who have 3 checks. You see, because you have people on staff, oh yeah, we all know, who went out one day, came back the next day. They're still here. They're still in the system. And the reason they're still in the system, they also getting the husband's Social Security, because we don't pay into Social Security. Let's break that down. So they're getting the husband's Social Security. They're getting the check, because if you don't withdraw from TRSL, you see that money stays there, so they're getting a check. But when we start talking about a new hire, how long do you have to stay out, Superintendent Narcisse, to be a new hire? So I ought to be able to come back and be that new hire. Is that correct? Or you all have a list, or are you going to blackball us that we can't come back in to get this money? See, because that's where the problem is going to come in. Everyone should be able to be given an incentive. Now, you can't be into teaching if you're not in love with teaching. You have to love it, because it wasn't for the money. And all of us did a job. Your parents were in education. We did the lesson plan. Your father was over it. I was the sit chair for the teachers when we did the lesson plan committee. We didn't do a talent on it, and it was stolen from right on our foot, and another state bought it because we didn't have a patent on it, and it was stolen and used. But this is a very serious situation that you're going to let people just walk in our system, get a $7,500 at hire. And all these people who have worked for years and years, we don't even get anything. Years ago, we got a pen for 10 years. We don't get an apple for 10 years, 5 years, Connie, nothing. We don't get anything. You don't even give us a bag of potato chips for staying. Teacher appreciation, unless the parents get together and give something, teachers don't get anything. Now you're talking about $7,500 to some people. What people? Because you're going to have a big layoff. Not only a layoff, you're going to have a walkout. And they mentioned the bus drivers. But Rita just got through talking about what's going on. Not only are the teachers going to walk, but they already have a witch hunt out for their superintendent. It's not going to start in time. Please reconsider this and let all of us get in on the money and provide for everyone.
Thank you.
Karonda Corley, parent and disabilities advocate. I looked today on EBR's website and I saw that we have over a shortage of over 200 open positions for teachers. That's not including the 28 paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals serve our children with disabilities. So that means parents who have students written in their IEP for them to have a child specific, we won't have them. So that's another federal problem our school system will have. But also in addition to that, we also have where the staff that are currently teachers, they're not going to be able to get promoted. They're going to have to stay in those positions. That's something you might want to have a conversation with your HR director, because that's a problem when you're telling people that they can't move up the ladder. Why? Right now, last meeting, you approved a position for SROs of over $50,000 a year, but paraprofessionals not even getting paid $20,000. That's a problem, because those paraprofessionals work equally as hard as a teacher. You have bus drivers that's not getting paid that amount. So when you look in my face and you make personal eye contact with me, know that that's a problem, because now we're having real problems, because we were told multiple times that we didn't have no ESSER funding, and the funding source for this is ESSER. How? We can't keep having that. And even though my board member right here is telling me it's not true, it was stated on record multiple times. It was even stated at the last meeting. And when we say that, hey, these things are problems, they are problems, because it's affecting our children. Even when common thieves come up here and talk about that we're talking against the man and not talking about the children, we are talking about the children, because when the staff is not there, we have empty classrooms where there's children that are not being supervised. That then goes into child endangerment and negligence. So yes, we have a problem. $7,500, that should be given to the staff that's already here, that's been working tirelessly during COVID. They don't want what you gave what you're talking about doing in the superintendent's report, riding bicycles for free. They don't want that. They want money so that they can pay their bills, keep their lights on. They want money so that they can pay for food. You know, a pack of chicken wings is $13 right now. Let's be real. People are having problems. And as much as we talked about inflation at the last committee, we need to talk about the inflation of the rate in which people are going to leave our school system. This is not against the man. This is against the policies and stuff that we're bringing before the people.
Thank you, Sister Corley. Seeing no other public comment. All right, back to the board. Board Member Landers.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Again, it's never my opinion to challenge anyone's comments and I don't want to specify this as a challenge. I just like to clarify things for the record because we keep hearing that there's no more ERSA funding. Just last meeting, it was specified that we have $137 million in ESSER funding still inside of our accounts. I say that again for the record. $137 million still inside of our accounts. That is unrestricted funds. And as a board, we can reallocate any money from those funds. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, Ms. Nicola, can you come back up to the mic? I had a few questions. Stipends. So I start with stipends for fall and spring. We heard the superintendent bring up, and Mr. Superintendent, please jump in for any of this. Will the new teachers that are signing on, will they be eligible for those spring and fall stipends?
It would depend on the criteria.
What type of criteria would that be?
So every time we have oh, can't hear me?
Just a
Oh,
little.
higher. Okay. Every time there is a stipend, we always put stipulations in there. So normally there is a time that a person needs to be hired. And I think the last one was before October, and maybe I haven't the right date, but there's a time limit that we put that you have to be hired before a certain time.
Okay. Next question. How will the $7,500 be broken down over 3 years?
We give it in two payments. So the proposal, as per the memo that was uploaded and shared with the entire audience and the board, the first payment will be at the end of December, and the second payment is at the end of the school year.
Okay. So that's roughly $3,250?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just for the record, the average sign-on bonus in Louisiana is $2,500. So it's not too off from that. So I understand that. My next question would be, I know the usual policy for HR is that if anybody retires or leaves or quits from the school district, there's a 1-year hold placed on them before they can come back. Will there be any exception for any teachers that want to come back under this new policy that we're talking about?
Yes. So that is a internal policy. So when I came on board, I want to make sure I'm being politically correct here. So it depends on who it is.
Okay.
So decisions were made on relationships. So now I took that away, where we look at performance.
So this is prior
and
to
at-
you. Decisions were made on relationships?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So this is my decision moving forward. Yes, we will rehire you. It depends on your performance, how your performance rating and your attendance, because we want to rehire the best if they want to come back. Yes.
So I understand. If you quit, leave, or retire, and you want to come back,
Yes.
as long as you meet those two requirements in terms of performance, and what was the other one?
And attendance.
And attendance,
Yes.
then you can come back before a year and be eligible for the $7,500.
Correct.
And I heard
But
something
also
about-
let me be clear though.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't want you to quit today or
Right.
quit tomorrow and then try to come back, because we want to make sure that we are being responsible at the same time. So the goal of this is to be competitive, right? Their surrounding districts are doing similar sign-on bonuses, and I want to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game and watching the trend. So this is the reason why, or one of the rationale, or many rationales, to come forward to the board to ask for this.
Again, for clarity,
Yes.
the average sign-on bonus in Louisiana is $2,500.
Mhm.
You all went above that threshold,
Right.
which would be
Another five.
$3,250, if I'm not mistaken. Correct my math if I'm wrong. Right. So there'd be two of those. But you all are just trying to be competitive in terms of what the rest of the state or surrounding districts are doing.
Correct.
Which is the same thing that we're talking about for the compensation study. By gathering all of this data and information, when we put the numbers out that we're going to bring on for the new salaries, is to be competitive with the rest of the state as well as the surrounding parishes or districts.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Now my last thing I'll end with, I'm sorry, Ms. Nicola, thank you.
Go back.
Last thing I end with is I'll come back to, because I heard something about bus drivers, right? And when we gave out stipends, I want to say maybe 3-4 months ago, I specifically brought this up as a reason why we shouldn't do it, because it wasn't fair then. And now we're back in a huddle where we have to decide what we do for support staff for those frontline workers like cafeteria workers and bus drivers. And also, I think that we need to start thinking about the way that we treat and compensate our janitorial workers, because they do just as hard of a job as everybody else that we've named thus far. But I think that we just need to be more mindful about those positions, because positions are just as important as someone that is inside of our schools. Because if the schools are not cleaned properly, especially in a COVID pandemic age that we're in right now, that puts a lot of people at harm, and it also stresses them out. So I just want to lift that up as a point of contact. But thank you again, Ms. Nicola, for clearing that up. Thank you.
If I could just add one more piece, Board Member Lannis, and to the board, I just want to remind us when we went down the conversation of looking at all the compensation scales and all that stuff, remember that we said that we will not be able to fix everything this year. And our goal has been to get the salary scales fixed and all that, which is the process that the board approved. And then what we would do this year is stipend, a fall stipend and a spring stipend to the entire staff that I will be recommending to the board, that will be able to address that issue until we do the 8% salary in the next budget cycle. So I think right now, the reason that we decided that strategically we need to go down this particular was because we have vacancies. And if you're not competitive with your competitors around you, you have problems. And so, I just want to, bring up, it's not that we don't value the existing folks. Maybe if we would have probably put this all together with the stipend, it made it feel people differently. But the reality is, at this point right now, the priority was, let's do the best we can to close the teaching vacancy gaps that we have now, because school is in 2 weeks. And that was the priority. And then in August, we would bring the total stipend component to the for the fall and to the spring to the board in August. That was our rationale. Yes, Board Member Lyles.
Thank you. How much is the stipend going to be in the fall and the spring? Do we have an idea of that? I think the audience wants to know that.
So it's hard for me to give you a number right now, because what we're trying to do is make it just as competitive in two spaces for the fall and the spring. So I'd hesitate to give you a number right now. I think we're right now working, doing our due diligence with the budget office to be able to get that out right away, and to also predict what the dates will be. So the staff will be good with that, but it will be, we heard, as the board charged me, that it was important that we make sure that we, for this year, as we work on fixing the salary scales and getting towards that increase, that we would stipend a good stipend in the fall and a good stipend in the spring, in order for us to be able to compensate our staff. And so, the question here right now is, again, we prioritize trying to solve vacancies first, and then in August we will bring that up, and then the board will bring one recommendation to the board on what that amount is, and then we'll go from there.
So my last question is, will it at least be competitive? Because I will argue this: the stipends that we got a few months ago, in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, I didn't think it was competitive. We said teachers in a COVID year, because this is COVID money, we said that we basically segmented our employees by saying this one particular group of not teachers, I hate to say that, but this one particular group of employees should make more than this other group. And the other group just so happened to be our bus drivers and cafeteria workers. And that just simply did not sit well with me. I think that if we're going to do it that way, everybody should have a fair shot to receive the same amount of money, because they all did the same work in the same time period under the same constraints.
So we'll bring a recommendation to the board, Board Member Lannis. Our goal is to, our goal is to make sure that the stipend is a good stipend, and also that we want our staff to feel valued. The bigger push for us is not only this year with just the stipend, but is to really, we should be paying more in this entire region. We are the second largest school district. We have so much more complexities. There's so much more that we can do as a staff. And so, we're trying to solve a dual problem. But in August, I will be bringing that recommendation to the board, and then, we'll go from there.
So next month?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I wanted to just lift up something. My colleague and I are on the same page about the, as y'all know, I generalize all those buckets of money and just say COVID money. I'm lifting this up again because it's very relevant to this particular agenda item that we have asked specifically to be able to retain existing staff so that some of these vacancies may have been mitigated from period. And the answers that were given, and I don't think my colleague was present at that particular meeting, that was the first board budget workshop, where the COVID money was not even included in the budget documents, nor was it going to be discussed, because we were told in this public meeting that there was no COVID money there. So just want to make sure that people not confused about what's going on in the conversation about the COVID money. It's significant because several of us expressly asked to use the COVID money for the purpose of retaining teachers to help avoid some of the vacancies that we try to address now. Okay, I need teachers and staff to start speaking up for themselves. They watching these meetings, a nice text saying, "Thank you, Ms. Collins, for being my voice," is nice. Okay, but I can't do nothing for you if you're not showing up for yourself. Okay, and one or two of your colleagues show up consistently for you. Y'all have to be your own voice. Start showing up to these meetings. Start paying attention to these meetings. It's important because you're on the back burner again. And now we have to pray that what comes in August is going to be fair to you. I would also like to say what I hope comes to us in August has no stipulation on it, on who gets it. Because this has no stipulations in turn. And what I mean by no stipulations, I don't care how many days they miss. We don't know how many days these people gonna miss. Bring us something that's gonna help us retain staff. Board colleague Dyson.
One of the things that I think we might want to consider as we're talking through the stipends, and also this is worded bonus, and I know for a long, long time we have avoided the word bonus and always used the word stipend, and I don't know legally. I see bonus now, and that I just want some clarity on that. The other thing is, I think we might want to consider, and I know it's harder for staff to get this dollar amount per person different from the others and all of that, but I think we should consider looking at, and I hope that part of the reason for not being sure how much and all of that is because we're thinking through of all kinds of options, and one being percentages and percentages of current salary. And I think that is a fair way to consider these going forward. I'd like for us to put a lot of thought into this and have some input as board members as we move forward to make sure that we're appreciating, make sure that we're showing our appreciation to our current staff as well. The other thing is, and I know that it's a lot about people not, wanting dollars. I understand that totally. There are other ways as well that we can support our staff and be sure that we are giving them a voice to have input, and it's important that they feel valued in the workplace. And I know that there are creative ways that principals in the past have awarded employees who are having great attendance, who are doing great things, all of those things. And they can be as simple as, you've got a reserved parking spot right here for this, 9 weeks or semester or month or whatever it be, moving it around. There's other ways as well. I've heard of creative principals that say, you get duty free, in the mornings and the afternoons. There's just lots of ways that we also, in addition to the stipends, need to be looking at to encourage our principals and give them the autonomy and the encouragement to do some creative rewards as well at each school site. So thank you.
Board Member Ware Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Dr. Narcisse, I know we've talked about this before around basically the process where we had a group of teachers that were looking to move, and then we implemented a new staffing model without regard to using some of those people in that group that really wanted to move. And I'm wondering if we're ending up trying to fix a problem that we probably could have prevented. But, that's, I guess, as they say, neither here nor there, right? I'm wondering if we spoke a little bit about the average signing bonus stipend in Louisiana being around $2,500 total. Is that total, or is that in two parts? Is it 5,000? Because ours is going to be 7,500, which is, if 25 is total, that's 3 times what we're 3 times the average. Is that right? Is the average 2,500 and we're offering 7,500 and we're splitting it over the first part of the year, and then the remainder, the second half of the 75, will be paid at the end of the year?
I just want to make sure I'm clearing your question, Board Member Jackson. So the 7,500, we were going to provide it in two splits, one in the fall, one in the spring. It's just half of 7,500 divided by the 2. So
Right.
Usually we've always kind of provided amounts in that way for staff. But are you, I guess I just want to make sure your question is, are you asking is our stipend?
I'm asking if the average Louisiana signing bonus or stipend, is it 2,500 total? Or is it 5,000 split over?
Well, first is,
Two payments.
the different parishes and boards decide on how much they want to give their staff.
Right.
So the average that Board Member Lana has probably referred to is probably, they probably added all of the amounts across the region and then, took an
Yeah, the
average
average,
amount. Yeah. So,
But is that total, or is that for, like, we're splitting ours?
yeah, so our total amount that the signing bonus
total
would
is
be 7,500. And so,
right.
yes, and there'd be in 2 payments.
Right, I
Right.
understand that.
Mhm.
Is the 2,500 the total amount?
Oh, for
or yeah, when we were talking about the average, are you talking about what's split or
I would
the whole thing?
suspect, I mean, I don't have that report in front of me, but I would suspect that 2,500 is total.
Okay, so we're going to do 3 times the average. That's a pretty significant.
That is correct. We wanted to provide a significant amount. I mean, we have positions that we want to are hard fill in those pieces,
Right,
and
some real
especially in
critical core areas.
different core areas in schools across the city. So we want to be very competitive. So a teacher chooses us.
And I understand that, we have, that there was some maybe differing information around ESSER funds, whether we had enough to do this or do that, but we have 137 million going into the upcoming school year, or the time that the allotted time for, because I know some of them start at a certain date and they end at a certain date. We got different pots of ESSER funding. So do we have an idea of how many vacancies we have that will need to fill with these stipends?
Ms. Hall, can you come up to answer that question? We have, the way that we prioritize was based on core subject areas. And so there was a process that the HR department went through in terms of priority, in terms of, math, science, English, those areas first.
The core subjects.
Yeah, so those subjects have always been hard to fill, to be frank with you. And also, again, I know the question before was, what is the average amount of vacancies? I mean, we're close to, Ms. Hall, you correct me on this, we're pretty close to what our average vacancies have been in general. So when you look at the amount of teachers, we have about 3,200 teachers total. And the amount of vacancies we have is 200. You have the exact number.
233.
233. So when you saw Ms. Hall gave you the averages over the last 3 to 4 years, we were pretty close to what the normal average vacancy is in EBR every year. What we're trying to do is be aggressive in trying to close that gap, to bring people on board. We don't have as many teachers leaving the system as predicted, but our average is still the same. So, and we predict that based on our numbers, and we're about 2 weeks out for school to start.
Yeah, I know we've had a significant amount of people leave between April and July. What I'm concerned about is the relationships between the new teachers and the existing staff when they come along. Sometimes people just can't help but feel some kind of rift. So I think we really need to be mindful about how we handle our existing staff. I know that we need more teachers. Maybe some of it could have been prevented, maybe not, but we definitely need to do something now to attract. But we also need to put every effort forth to retain, because there's so many that are watching what we're doing, and may get the wrong impression, based on, like, when we say that we're going to do something. Like, for instance, I know that we've had to have been working on this for a while to come up with certain numbers and making sure that we have all of the information that you needed to decide that it's going to be 75. It's going to be, you have certain criteria and all, and to have it come the day before the board meeting might send a signal that you might not want to send, So we just need to be very mindful about how people will interpret what we're doing, and be careful about that. So if someone could speak to what we might be able to do, or then were you going to come up and comment on one of the questions? What was
No,
it,
we were
Dr.
just
Narcisse, that
trying
you
to solve
wanted
for
her to-
vacancies. Just wanted to answer your question on vacancies correctly. So
Yeah, about how many-
but we will consider, taking consideration, as you said, be mindful. Our goal was not to make anybody read in anything. Our goal was to solve the problem, which
Yeah, I
is
know.
try to
The
get,
goal is never to.
as you always say, no good deed goes unpunished, I guess.
Mhm.
So, but the goal is, we still have gaps. And so we are trying to be aggressive to close those. You know, the HR staff and team have worked really hard with the budget office on trying to prioritize. We've said let's rank first, and the priority was let's close the vacancies. As the board knows, we've had a lot of our vacancy challenges just even with COVID, and so we've been trying to solve that problem. We think we can get a better handle with the bonus would be competitive enough that we don't have you know, any new teacher not choosing us, and so that's why
Right.
we've been strategic. Like,
Right, yeah, we have to offer something that's very attractive. So now can you tell me about how many vacancies that we have?
for
can you-
teachers, it was
Yeah, the ones that we
233.
need.
233 teachers is the number.
232?
233 teacher vacancies.
Right, across the board, but
Across
the core that we're focusing on, that we have historically cannot fill or have a hard time filling,
Yeah, those core
it's about
subjects.
110 today. So the core subject area, those are the ones that we're having a hard time to fill.
Yeah, and that's the one that's the group
Math,
that this
English.
money is earmarked for.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to call a question now, so I'm going to ask that we take a vote on that.
I'm done.
I'm a,
Oh,
oh,
yeah, I said thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Council Shamlin, can you give us the process to proceed on calling the question?
It will take a motion, a second, and 2/3 members, 6, have to vote. I guess there's no second, but she made the motion. So we need now entertain, and I think there needs to be, because this is a vote of the board comment from the public, and then back to the board. Only concern is by law, anytime this board takes a vote, we're supposed to take public comment. And
Which,
yeah, okay.
okay, all right. So then board comment on calling the question and, right, from the board. Yeah, public comment, yes.
Thank you. I'm not as tall as Ms. Hall. There would be no need to call off to shorten debate if the administration had come prepared. Please defer this until next month. Thank you.
No further public comment. Call the vote.
Vice President Collins, we're gonna have to do a roll call vote. The system doesn't allow me to take a electronic vote without a second.
okay. Second.
You made the motion.
Right, but you could just put me as the second for the system to work.
Okay.
Since it doesn't require a second.
Please vote. Refresh your screen. The motion carries.
All right, Madam Secretary, call the vote on the original motion.
Please vote.
Abstain.
The motion carries.
I'd like to see the vote.
Moving forward with a redistricting report.
Madam Vice President?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
May I speak first on this, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for providing the report, Mr. Shanlon. There were some things that I asked for at the last meeting that we didn't have the information on, and we do have more, but there's still a little missing as far as the, I asked specifically around all of the staff, including your hours. I know you say here in the report, the approximate salary of staff based on hours worked and hourly wage, hourly average income is $17,840. And you mentioned the hours that you put in were about 90 hours. And there were 5 committee members at approximately 5 hours of time. That's not included in that 17. Could you give us an idea of what that cost is? Because I did ask specifically around both general counsel and the committee members.
So the 17,000 does include me. And so what we did, Ms. Ware Jackson, was that includes myself, April, IT staff, because those are the staff that regularly worked every redistricting meeting, public hearing, and we tried to actually figure in some hours for the work at the actual board meeting. And so that does include me. What that does not include is the RFP committee staff. So that's something I'd have to bring back to you. I didn't, I was looking at people who were actually working those hours to actually, address the needs of the board and the public with those public meetings. I will tell you, I spoke with Larry Williams on the RFP process. He says it's about a 3-hour process. And so we could probably get that number pretty quickly for you. I don't anticipate it's going to change this number very much.
No, not that much, but I
Yeah,
just want
5 committee members.
wanted that to be clear, because here, it just says the hourly average, and I know you guys are not on an hourly rate, so that was a bit unclear. But
Well, what I did do though was I had the CFO take my salary, April's salary, and the actual individuals who worked, and we figured the hourly rates for each of us. So we were able to kind of get it's an approximate, but we did the best we could to get close to that number.
and it mentions about 150 plus staff hours. Okay. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it. But I would hope that you would just, after all this time, we'd have everything in there. I know it's not a significant difference, as you say, but, after asking for it and having the time, I know there's a lot of things that have come up between now and then, even with this new litigation in federal court. I expect that these numbers, especially around the attorney fees, will be significantly higher, because the numbers that we have right now are numbers before any trial or any of the cases in court.
For clarity, actually, I spoke with external counsel. Depending on the decision at the Court of Appeals, there may not be much more in terms of hourly work of attorneys. So we won't know that number until there's a decision.
That would definitely be a relief.
Yes. Yeah.
Lord
So,
knows we-
but I can certainly provide that update when that time comes if needed. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also included the information on the new lawsuit in this as well.
Okay, thank you. Would you proceed now? Thank you.
Yeah, so we've covered the salaries. There's an additional lawsuit filed in federal court with the same identical plaintiffs, with the addition of 2 plaintiffs. The purpose of that lawsuit, in essence, is to attempt to stop the current election. The difference is that's a federal lawsuit, and it does name the board members individually as well as the board as a group. And so that is before the federal court. I don't have a hearing date. I was hoping to get something today, a final determination on a hearing date before this meeting. I don't have it yet. It may be in existence. I'll have to bring that back to you next time. I was kind of holding to see if I can get that information for you. We anticipate, I believe there may be a status next week, but I'm not sure what the hearing date determination will be. I'll have to get that for you. I'll email the board once that's available.
And then also around the, whether or not our district is the only district that is running or would be running on a census 2010 census map.
Yep, I'll speak to that because we had that conversation. We're not privy to that information. There would need to be a public records request made to the Secretary of State to gather that information. The initial the initial discussion with Secretary of State led me to the final conclusion that they don't have a document that produces that. Whether they would actually produce that information at a request, I can't answer. But they don't compile that information into a report. So there was no report for them to produce as to the number of districts running on reapportioned or malapportioned maps. It just didn't exist. And so as we discussed, any individual can make a public records request. That's always a possibility. And that's kind of where we left.
Your report says that a request has been made for the same information from the Louisiana Secretary of State, but no response has been received.
We requested the information, right? But there is no document that exists with that information in it, right?
I see. You don't need a public records request.
Right. We just made a request. Yeah, we just called and asked. But someone can make an official request if they would like to see if they'll create a document for you as a courtesy. That's something that could certainly happen.
Yeah, I'd like to know of all of the, what is it, like 67 or 69 school districts, that are up for, that will be running on the November 8th election. And of Mr. Hefner's group, how many did he say?
In the report, I believe I put that in the report. I believe he said that to his knowledge, none of his clients are doing so. He can only speak to his clients.
So of all of the plans that he's done, ours was the only one that was incomplete and may have to run on the 2010 census data.
Well, ours was the only one that was legally challenged. There's no decision yet on what that final outcome will be.
Ours is the only one who we're incomplete since Plan 22 has been deemed null and void by the state court.
How do you define incomplete?
Well, if we don't have if we were ordered to redistrict and we're still almost like 40% out of alignment, we haven't been successful.
It's my position as counsel for the board, Ms. Ware Jackson, that the board has reapportioned. The map is being challenged. So the board went through the reapportionment process. So we don't know what the outcome will be until the Court of Appeals rules.
Yeah, so if they rule that we are in violation of federal and state law, then we would be back to the drawing board. would we not?
Potentially, yes, but that would depend upon the ruling of the court.
Okay. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. And now moving forward to item J, organizational meetings, announcements of meetings, board colleague Gode.
Announcement of meetings. Committee of the Whole will be held on August 4th, 2022 at 5 p.m. at the Central Office Board. The regular meeting of the school board will be held on August 18th, 2022 at 5 p.m. at the Central Office Boardroom. And I move to adjourn. Yeah, I think it's still light outside.
That's a wonderful thing.